79T 2458 Learning Corp. Little Red Riding Hood. Take one.
Morning. How's everybody doing? Having a good day? We went full red in the background. So as you can see, you got 4 and 3. The last 3 numbers are going to be, let me check the dates here. I'm checking the weeks. Yeah, so 3 is on next week, then 2, and then 1 on the 28th. So that should be good. Reveal, reveal. Yeah, salutations to you too, sir. Just got your tea brewed. Let's effing go. You noticed a couple things. One, I don't know if you know this, but I have like 3 books, almost a 4th. I have to brag about this one, guys. It's a monumental success story, and it's out now. Oh my god. You're not supposed to be like, yeah, you're supposed to say things 100 times because people just won't remember otherwise. So I have to go do that now. I got to pull the link for it because I'm stupid. But that's fine. What's he talking about? Oh, did you not know the new book's coming out? And not only is the new book coming out, but there's like 3 new books coming out. And this is just the latest one. Really? Oh, yeah, God. Have you not seen? There she is. Book 3, Praxiology, Volume 3. Oh, it's just beautiful. All right, so I want to talk about this for a bit, and then you notice the topic here is like, what the heck is he going to talk about? I'm actually going to talk about sidebar stuff. I see some super chats. I'll get to those in just a second. So it's ready for pre-order now. It's going to be out on the 13th. The 13th. Praxiology, Volume 3. If you don't know, the series of Praxiology is all of the technical and useful parts of the red pill that have been around since the 2000s, finishing off around 2015. I wish I could say there was more new stuff, but there really isn't. But that's fine. It just is what it is. Praxiology Volume 1 was the concept of frame. Turns out frame is a very expansive topic. Oh no, it was originally dread. Praxiology was supposed to be 1 book on dread. Then the book got to be about 150,000 words big, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Nobody, like, that's twice the size of what a book should be, unless you want to have one of those autistic treaties or like War and Peace and that. So we split it up into 2 concepts. The first one was frame, second one was dread. And you can kind of tell, like, when you see, because you see the size differences here, just in the words alone. Dread is a much more expansive topic because it's a much more expansive system. Frame is kind of like, you can't do dread without frame. Frame's a little easier to explain, and the concepts, there's concepts in all of them for people to have to go through. It's a very technical thing, not what people were expecting. They're expecting alpha male nonsense. It's like, no, there's work to do. Frame, on the one hand, is the best way I mean everybody that was in the red pill during this time had a tetrahedron. That was the best way to think of it. 3 points holding up a point on the top, like a pyramid. The idea is emotional, physical, and intellectual. Know the things you're supposed to know, understand the frailties and the failures and the successes and the strengths and weaknesses of the human body, the emotional side, and the physical side, obviously. And that's the stuff everybody likes. It sounds cool. 6-pack abs. Oh fuck, I love 6-pack abs. Really? Are you a little light in the loafers? Like, no. I just like the idea of them. All right, fair enough. And you get those things together, and the idea is you get those to a certain level of competence and confidence, and it allows you to build your own personal worldview that benefits you first and foremost, but others around you insofar as they provide value, and that's great. And then on top of that, you provide yourself with a vision, and that's a very personal thing. Like, what is it about me that makes me want to do what I do? What's my overarching narrative? They call it a deep narrative. There's a couple The way human being thinks of things is like stories, and that's why I always talk about mental models. Mental models is a little narrative structure we use to anchor our decisions. A deep narrative is an overarching story that kind of contains them all together. Think, what would Jesus do versus the Christian faith? That's like a good way to understand it. That's a little ideological though, but it's relatable. You can kind of get it at a grasp what I'm talking about with like the scope and the scale. Anyway, so that's one part of it. And then dread is, what do you do when you're in a lackluster marriage, either sexually, physically, whatever your problems are. And it carries over to other parts in your life, and then from there, there's a few things you kind of we found that was beneficial to go through first. The first is a scoreboard. And the idea is there's 3 tiers to men who are in a struggling relationship and have to develop, a personal roadmap, or a map, they call it, which not the creepy illegal one. I'm talking about like a male action plan. This is Athol Kay's term before he feminized it. Anyways. So there's the first scoreboard, and the idea is like, you're treating it like a combative battle between the sexes, because sexual strategy is adversarial, not collaborative. And the first one is getting out of your wife's frame. The idea is you're playing a game against her. She's putting points up on the board. You can't put points up on the board, but she's also the referee, so of course you can't. And so that first idea of the scoreboard is learning to get out of your wife's frame. Stop looking at the scoreboard. And then the second, and when guys start there, it leads to certain actions versus others, or prioritizing certain things over others. The second scoreboard is when you realize, okay, so there's a scoreboard and I'm starting to put up my own points. So I'm starting to win. I'm beating this bitch. It's awesome. And this is, you developing your own frame. And this is where the entirety of this book falls under that one concept of like the 9 concepts that are in Dread, right? And then the third one is when you realize, like, why am I dunking on this little woman? And like, yeah. And then you throw away the scoreboard. And that's the idea of you pulling your wife into your frame, or, pulling somebody else. The idea there is, like, your frame has become something that other people attach to because they like it for their own benefits. Now, frame itself, it's more of a metaphor as opposed to like a tangible thing. Frame encapsulates what you do, who you are, how you approach the world, your worldview, all these things. It's a bit of a nebulous term, and I think it needs to be, because if you make it too specific, then people start to focus on, like, when you make the statistic the measure, then you hyper focus on the measurement. It's like, oh, we're going to focus on GDP, and then all of a sudden your economy's in shit, but your GDP looks great because you focused on one number and you immigrated 5 million Southeast Asians into your country. Hypothetically speaking, of course. So on top of that, then, okay, so then you got that. You got what kind of where are you on the scoreboard? Do you have frame? Do you not have frame? Does your wife just not buy into your frame? Okay, take that, and then take the idea of what kind of dysfunctional relationship you're in. And broadly speaking, there's only 3. There's type 1, type 2, and type 3 captains. Type 1 captain is the I should be able to riff this way faster than I do, considering I wrote the fucking thing, but hey, we're doing what we got, right? The drunken captain. The idea is, in a relationship, there's been certain expectations from one party and the other party, and as a guy, you tend to renege. Some guys renege on what it is. They're the proverbial man children. They've just, let themselves get fat and lazy. They stop trying. At best, they'll bring home a paycheck. Sometimes not even that much, and they're just fucking And then the girl's like, very disgruntled about it, very bitchy, and so sometimes it really is you're just a piece of shit. You need to work on things. And so that's the type 1 captain. And the idea there is, most guys found, they kind of just do the things that foster a good relationship in modern times. And no, we're not talking traditional conservative men, like, you earn the money and she does this. It's more, a lot of it is you defining terms, but there has to be a definition that the other people agree to, because they're human beings and they have to agree to it as well. Not a negotiation. It's more so a being able to look in the mirror and saying, okay, I've got my shit in order. And then those women tend to be like, oh, awesome, I've got this guy who's got his shit in order. That's great. And you move on. Second type of captain, neurotic captain, and his constantly complaining passenger. And that's the idea of walking on eggshells, bed of needles. The idea is the wife tops from the bottom, constantly complaining, very, very neurotic. And then the guy is so validation seeking, mommy issues, Oedipus complex stuff, that he enables this pathological behavior because he is in desperate need and fear of abandonment, right? And then that replies a bunch of other things. And then the third type of captain is the captain and her husband. It's the idea of the girl who, sometimes it's because of childhood issues, sometimes it's just because she's like brainwashed with feminism rot, whatever. And they're like, I'm in charge, I'm the boss bitch. They want a floor mat, they want a guy they can put up with. Sometimes it's a drug addicted, like an alcoholic. Like if a girl's an alcoholic, she doesn't want a guy that reflects her lack of ability to stop her alcoholism. She wants another alcoholic. She wants an enabler. And of course, having the girl run this relationship tends not to work very well. Nobody's happy, but everybody's too proud to say something. So you got these three different scenarios that you may end up in. The three different scoreboards of where you are in it with regards to your frame, and then your wife's acceptance of your frame or girlfriend. It's a long-term relationship thing. I don't want to just nail it just to marriage. You take those things, you put them all together, and then there's the concepts of dread. Active dread and passive dread. Active dread is stuff that, like, frame encompasses passive dread. It's stuff that you would do that has nothing to do with how your wife reacts or not. If she was dead tomorrow, what would you do? Those things are mostly passive dread. How do you make yourself attractive? How do you make yourself not unattractive in how you act or speak? Charm, charisma, that sort of thing. Active dread is the more salacious stuff. That's like handling infidelity, divorce, things that actively involve you interacting with the girl, right? And I don't pull punches. There's a real section in there about good infidelity and bad infidelity, and I don't mean that in like a what's the word I'm looking for? Moralistic way. It's not a moralistic way. It's more just a practical way. Like if you're gonna do something, do it right. Make it sustainable. If it's sustainable, it works and it's beneficial. You may not like it, she may not like it, but if it's sustainable, that means it's consistent. That means you're doing it properly, right? Oh, I can give you this stuff. It's still not going to help. Like, yeah, for a car, you just change the spark plug. Oh, how does that work? Oh, for fuck's sakes. Yeah, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Like I said, but this is what I mean. I don't want anybody buying these books not knowing what they're in for, right? I want you guys to know what you're in for. Anyways, you got your passive dread, your active dread, and then what emerged out of it as I realized, like after going through hundreds, thousands of field reports, that there's only really a finite amount of outcomes for this. So a lot of guys, their problem is they lack confidence, right? I don't have the confidence to take this path, to try these things, because I'm worried I have no certainties about what's going to come out the other end. And then you don't want to have a covert contract about it, but I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, there's these 5 outcomes. 1, you do your certain things. Your wife responds well to it. You guys have a happy marriage, live happily ever after. One fairly common outcome to that too. It's amazing. Nobody likes getting off a moving train. If you start becoming a moving train, who isn't happy about it? I get to benefit from this, and all I have to put up with is crying every now and again because he has dread. Oh, boo-hoo. And then the 4 are a combination of whether you leave or you stay together. One of you divorces, one of you separates, whatever. And on the other side of the matrix is whether you're sleeping together or you're not sleeping together. Because sex is the key. Without sex, there's no relationship. It's just roommates and co-founders of a startup company, Children Co. Whatever. So yeah, some guys, marriage moves on, everything goes great, awesome. Some guys, they separate from their wife and then they plate their ex-wife. You never think that would happen, and it does. It does. They plate their ex-wife. They just they find somebody new who's younger and tighter and hotter and more pleasant. Sometimes they stay with their wife and realize, you know what? I'm just going to run out the clock. The kids are almost 18. I'm going to stay here, put up with the situation as it is, prepare myself for moving on to something after this. After this is done. After the kids are out of the house, she's out of the house. Status quo. And then the last one is, stay together, you accept status quo, but then you just go get your needs met elsewhere, right? So those are your general 5 outcomes to it. And then of them, I give an example on each one is like, because it's not a single one of the scenarios are perfect or ideal, or there's no happy ending out of all of them. It's always about choices, benefits, trade-offs. And so with each one, you kind of get a somber moment. Okay, this is the stuff that's probably going to be more fun for you. And this is the stuff that's going to be, sucks to have this happen. Well, it's the consequences of my actions. Shit happens. So at that point, I mean, anybody going through this, you don't even have, I mean, I've designed them so you don't have to actually go through the sidebar. They're made to be as hooked on phonics, paint by numbers as you can get. And that's it. That's really the only things that can happen to you. So it kind of, and it doesn't tell you which way to do things. It doesn't tell you if there's a right way or a wrong way. It's just giving you, here's your options. And then the big decisions have to be made by you because you're the only one that lives with them. And so that was that. And that's Frame and that's Dread. And then what's Fuccfiles? Well, Fuccfiles was my first attempt at a book. I like it. It's a product of its time. And I think it's beneficial because at the time, like Jordan Peterson was the biggest deal ever. I was like, oh, everybody's great. He's cleaning up his room and go pet a cat and let your kids skateboard. And he had 15 rules for life. And it was this weird abstract mess of like helpful platitudes surrounding stuff. Like I tried to read it, but it's like, I don't understand who this is for other than, if you remember those times where you would like, I loved watching this guy. He's so smart. And he would explain for an hour some complex topic. And you're like, wow, I'm smarter for having known this. And then you're talking to somebody afterwards. You're like, dude, have you seen the latest, guy's thing on this? Like, oh, well, what was it about? And you try to explain what you just learned. And you're like, just watch it. And you realize like, dude, I sat there feeling very smart watching a guy babble. And I don't know anything. I can't repeat anything I've learned. It was just like the feeling, the pantomime of being smart. It's Potemkin Village. If you're going to rename it, go full Manosphere. Ryan's Roughnecks. Everybody fights, no one quits. Yeah. So anyways, on that, it was like, well, Peterson's doing 12 rules for life. I can do 15. And it was just 15 short stories of my life growing up as, well, learning pickup when I went from what they used to call back in the day an average frustrated chump. Nowadays you get beta male, whatever. Went from that to like, doing well, settling down, and, going from single to heavily dating to settling down. 15 stories. They kind of express like the general roadmap of a guy going through his life stages, right? The successful guy, I would argue. I think I've done well. I look around. I don't see anything where I'm like, fuck. And the idea there is 80% of it should relate to you so long as you're not a complete fucking idiot, right? You should be like, oh yeah, I may not have slept with my boss on ship in San Diego, but I've had a situation where the boss was coming on to me. I've had a slump buster before. I've had slept with a girl, found out she was married, and had a girl cheating on her husband with me, and that kind of made me very distrusting towards women, more so than getting cheated on. That was fine, and all this stuff. The time when I got really sad that a girl rejected me and went to somebody else. And so I'm like pulling some cringy behavior and stuff. It's not the greatest stuff. Like some stuff is good, but some stuff is definitely cringe, but it all happened. And then on top of that, why not just throw 15, or it's like each chapter has 2 to 3 like red pilled essays attached to it, right? Kind of like an engagement. It's like here's a Rolo article here, and here's a Ryan article. And it was nice, and it was what it was. But now, the new one coming out. Oh, it's going to be good. I figured with all these guys reading this, and it's like you guys never see process. Like, yeah, here's the book. It's a finished product. There you go. And I talk about the process on Mids Watches. Like I kind of show you individual field reports and how we kind of went through them back in the time. There's 127 of those. That was a process. That was a process series. So Praxiology 3 and 4 for people who don't watch YouTube, but they have read the books. And they're like, oh, well, let's see the process. I'm like, perfect. Here is a huge collection of theories, of case studies based on a couple field reports on a longitudinal level, because like this is a amalgamation of everybody's field report put into a narrative structure. But our own maps don't work that way. We always have ups and downs. Sometimes there's no progress for a while and then all the progress at once. Sometimes there's an initial spurt of progress. The guy gets freaked out, goes way back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back. And they're like, I don't like this place. It's ridiculous. And you're like, all right, I get it. So it's that. It shows it's messier. And when I was first researching it with Nick, let me pull it up again. Where did I put the goddamn thing? There she is. He actually mentioned something that was pretty illuminating, and it helped me put together what it was, right? Like the core of it. And he goes, yeah, this reminds me of like the old Reader's Digest back in the day. Like, I don't know if anybody ever read Reader's Digest. The fact is that most of the people in this audience under the age of 50 will probably be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But there used to be like, it was like a short story magazine that came out once a month, a whole bunch of things like that. I'm like, yeah, that's not a bad point. Like, it's not a single story. It's 20 stories all put together. It's one of those ones when you're on the toilet, you pick one up, you read a chapter, you put it back down. I'm like, dude, that's brilliant. And that's why if you look at the cover, it is what it is. Because I was like, oh, that's good. Let's lean into that. Let's lead on to toilet reading. Let's lead on to a Reader's Digest. Let's read on to something you're not meant to read it as a whole thing. It's meant to be like a piecemeal when you got a half hour here and a half hour there. And then I looked. I'm like, okay, so Reader's Digest was out since like the 1900s. And I was looking at the old ones, and you keep going up. And it wasn't until about like the 60s and 70s that I found an aesthetic that I think really worked. And you'll see it now where it's, again, it's all about process. If you look at the cover, it's got a photo on the front cover and the back cover, you know, people, umbrellas, couples walking down in a big city at night. But it's like half of that. It's like the page got ripped off. And that was the idea of process. My art history teacher, I remember this back when he used to learn, he used to love this. And he showed to me how the Baroque period was like an amazing transition from the High Renaissance. And it was for that. They used to call it, like you would see the paintings would be unfinished. Like the corner of it would be completely canvas colored. You'd see charcoal sketch through it and stuff like that. And he goes, I love this stuff because it was like art was no longer about just having the perfect thing there. You would see that there's a work in progress, that there's effort that went in behind it. Because it used to be like faux pas. You should never see brush strokes in a piece of art, but they're like, why not? So you can see like this was a work. There is brush strokes here and this is this. And so that's what this is, where it's kind of like the page was being printed and then halfway through it's like not done yet. So you're here seeing it before it's finished, which gives you, it primes you. So when you're reading this thing, she's like, these aren't finished people. These aren't finished male action plans. These aren't finalized whatevers. It's a work in progress. And so, yeah, a lot of guys, you're just going to see nothing but fucking up for some of the theory that's surrounding it. Like there's some case studies, mostly case studies, but there's occasional theories wrapped around it too. Some of those, again, they're not finished yet. It's a living document. And so every time you read this, you realize this is not Latin. It's not a dead language. It's not the final authority. And then that it encourages you to realize that, oh, okay. You know, it's not just like it's never too late to start. No, it's like, it's not done. It's not done. You got some shit to do here. This is on you. And I liked it. So yeah, let me do the super chat quick before I forget, because there's a few here and I don't want to lose them. First one, Johnny Trejo, $19.99 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate the kind words and the kind super chat. It is really a super chat. You know what they need to do? They need to give some kind of like a thing. Good morning. I listened to Theft of Fire. That's a great book to listen to. Oh, the audiobook for it is out. Well, that's good. Thanks for the recommendation. Think it was the book you recommended. It was. I've known Dev for, not a long time. Like I didn't really meet him until right when his book was being released, but between him and his wives, it was a pretty interesting thing to hear in his process. And it's like one of the few fiction books I've read since like I don't read as much as you think I do, other than like all the Sidebar stuff, which I have read. But when it comes to fiction, there was like the Hardy Boys when I was a child. And then I think the next fiction book I read was like Fight Club in the 90s. Theft of Fire. I'm sure there's, I guess Mark Twain's What Is Man kind of counts as nonfiction. But yeah, like very few and far between. And the fact that he actually got me interested in reading, I was like, fiction. Oh, and Delicious Tacos, of course. I was like, that's pretty good. The fact that he was doing hard sci-fi, like explaining the thing on railguns and that, and I didn't lose interest, was pretty impressive. Because once they start jerking off about the science, usually a guy loses me. But he actually did it well enough where I didn't. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's definitely worth. Silver Bishop. Fucker. $5 super chat. All right, give me a sec. Son of a bitch bastard. Oh, right. 1 sec.
So the memes, they're very good. This is really, they've taken it.
True Alpha.
Named Ryan Stone.
It says, ask Murphy about the article he wrote, cuckolding his wife. Clear up the cuck article.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
If I wasn't prepared to literally impoverish his entire bloodline.
I am now concerned for my career.
And I still recommend
Clear up the cuck article.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
You know what? Fuck you for bringing this up. Yeah. Fuck you. Heartfelt.
I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
It is just...
That's great. That's you should.
Fuck you.
Sorry, apologies.
Just keep going, dude. One foot in front of the other. Before you know it, this will all be in the rearview mirror. Fuck you.
How do you not love that guy? How do you love that goofy cuck? Heartfelt to you, Couch. I would also like to rename the sidebar into the Couch Bar. Wink, wink. It's on the list. It's on the list. Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Hey, look, it's Jesus of Montreal, aka the Philosopher King. You've been watching too much Clary, sir. He keeps calling me a philosopher, and I keep calling him an asshole. We're never making any progress at this rate. My weekend doesn't start until I hear that Family Matters piano flutter. Yeah, what can I say? What can I say? I'm a sucker for that. Anyways, I could see having like a Jamie would be very helpful for this stuff too. There we go. So I'm gonna spend some more time here on the dog walker now. So now you've seen like all of my red pill stuff, and then the answer I did a thing today or yesterday on it, like a pitch, and I was like, what's next? What's next? Because that's it. There's nothing else. Red pill. That's it. There's nothing else I can tell you that I haven't already told you. I can repeat myself, and that might be good. Everybody likes repetition, but it just like I would rather move on because, as I've told you before, there's no copyright. There's no gatekeeping. It's not like IP that you can, threaten Myron Gaines for you're talking about the red pill. You didn't pay royal. Like none of that shit exists. And I took a page from the fashion industry, if you can believe that. Everybody's always like, oh, how do you gatekeep this information? It's like you don't, but you can't gatekeep a clothing design either. Like, oh, I'm the guy who invented belts on t-shirts in the 80s. So I got the piano tie or piano key necktie. Like, you can't copyright that. So what do companies do? They do two things. One, they wrap their logo all over their purses so you can copy the purse design, but you can't copy the logo. That's the Louis Vuitton thing, which, some people do. And the other way is just you constantly doing new stuff. Force people to, even if they do copy you, they have to fight to keep up. There's a confidence that comes with that too, because that means like I have to know that I can continually innovate faster than the other guy can copy me. And luckily, most people are lazy. It's actually not as hard as you think. All you have to do is work for a living. It's really it. And that's what I've gone with here. So like I feel the need to repeat myself. But like the next spot, what else do you do? Well, I mean, Rolo talked about it a while before. There's like, what are you going to do? Watch Star Wars? They didn't make Star Wars for you. They made it for angry feminist Tumblr spinsters. Women just like the idea, oh, I love watching them ruin my ex-husband's favorite TV series, his favorite movie shows. I love it. Yeah, ruin that Star Wars. Put the HR lady in charge. Fuck this up. Snow White, let's ruin that too. Grandpa used to say that right before he dropped N-bombs. Fuck Snow White. So that's not for you, and that's not for you, and you could watch everything. I think and it's like the only thing left is anime. So guys are like relegated. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against anime, but if it's the only place to be, that means there's a lot more places to go. And obviously the vibe has shifted a lot right now. Like where everybody else was more like, I still remember when social media was basically a Damocles sword. Oh, dude, if I have the wrong opinion, if I accidentally don't use a pronoun, I'm going to get removed from the internet. Which, if you're just some random nobody, who cares? But if you're making a living on here, that can be a pretty big deal. Or it's the same as like you're going to get fired from your job if you say something about troons at work. It's like, oh, like maybe you shouldn't. That's true, but it's nice to know that buffer exists where you're allowed to be a normal person without getting fired for it. But that's all gone. Everybody says it's because of Trump. I don't care. I'm going to say that, though, because it sounds cool. Yeah, Trump saved us fucking rights. So what's next? Well, all these guys that have been sitting there complaining that they ruined video games, they ruined Star Wars, they ruined everything. They ruined the Bake Off reality TV shows. Now it's nothing but drag queens and Trudeau on there. Like, ruined everything. America's Got Talent. Nobody's got talent on it anymore. That's where we're at. So it's like there's a void to be filled. People who have gotten their shit together, people who have frame, people who have finished their round of dread with their old lady and they're having a great sex life right now. It's like, well, what now? Well, I can earn more money. Well, how much money do you need? I have enough. Okay. You have enough money. Great. Now what? Fuck, I don't know. Well, it's like, have you ever thought about just enjoying yourself a bit? It's like, I never thought about that. It's like, yeah, well, you kind of earned it, right? No, I need to be hustling. No, you don't. You're going to burn out if you just hustle all day. Like you worked for something. This is the something. So here, $10, buy a book. And that was the idea of the dog walker. Because I didn't like this, like the Fuccfiles. I like it, but it's not enough. And then the idea was, and I got to steal it from Nick. Hold on a second here. I took notes on this because Nick brought up something. This is going to be my marketing for it moving forward. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Like, I know. I know this because I actually enjoyed it. Because you know me. By the time I'm finished a book, I'm always like, I fucking hate this thing. I never want to look at it again. I've read this thing 4 times now. I'm finishing the last 3 chapters of the 4th read through. And I still enjoy reading it. So, like, that's something from a guy who doesn't read. But yeah, so the 4 words, Jane Austen for men. You know, Jane Austen being, like, she talks about the little character arcs, not about big things, not about space battles and that. It's just men. And so, like, the 3 terms, Jane Austen for men, Bukowski with less alcoholism, and if Steinbeck was more fun at parties and not a communist. I was like, that's actually pretty good. What does that even mean? I don't know. I've never been a Steinbeck fan because I don't know who the hell that is. Like, I kind of know, but I don't know. I just know of. It's like when people talk about me, like, who's this Ryan guy? It's like, I'm like there with Steinbeck. And I always get mixed up with that other feminist one that Rolo keeps talking about, the one that says to date all the bad boys and that. Yeah. And so the idea was, it's like a good story. It's like a real story. It's a character that goes from, like, he has this character, like everything that's good, like on the Roll Ryan channel, when I talk about why King of the Kickboxers is great, when I talk about how I Come in Peace is great, how I talk about how Rambo 3 is fucking great, how I'm going to talk about how Gattaca is great. It's not that the movies were great. It's not that the action was great, which they are, and they are absolutely great. Why dark sunglasses? It's like a mirror. I don't know. I wear what I want. What are you going to do? All you're going to do is see the screen, and all I'm staring at is your fucking chat and the monitor of the videos that I'm putting on. You'll be fine. Yeah, what do you guys think I have? Like hardcore porn staring back at me while I'm looking at you? No, it's mundane business stuff. I don't mind that. Oh my god, his show notes. I can see them in there. Oh, it's all right. I'm also talking about them. You'll be fine. Yeah, but it's mostly the character arcs. And sometimes the character arcs aren't what you expect. Sometimes the character is made perfectly. Like I Come in Pieces, Dolph Lundgren character. He's perfect. He does not have an arc. But he exists there as a plot anchor for everybody else around him to have a plot arc or a character arc. And that's the stuff you get drawn to. Everything else is just the flavor. You know? Ice cream. Ice cream is the character. You can have chocolate, you can have vanilla, but at the same time, you're going to get ice cream. And if the ice cream is shit, it doesn't matter what flavor it is, right? That chick Rolo talks about is that Facebook Sandberg chick. Yeah, you see what I mean? It's like, I don't even bother to remember. Don't even bother to remember. And then Jason here, what would you do if she starts leveraging sex against you and you're married? Like, Jay, I don't know what to tell you. That's such an expansive question. You'd almost have to read through $2 or listen to 10 hours of video essays for me to get through what to do. I should have written it down. I should have made a permanent record so I could point you in that direction. I can't spoon feed it past that. Just bought They Live. That's my evening. Dude, that's a great one too. It really is. They Live, big, like everything John Carpenter. They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing. Like really good stuff. I haven't watched any of his like really old stuff yet. And I think wasn't Soldier his too with Kurt Russell? I'd have to go check. The Escape from New York, Escape from LA. They're a little more weird. Like Escape from New York, I don't know how to take it. It's weird in the same way like The Warriors was weird. It's good, but it's not good in the way a classic movie should be good. It's just good as its own thing. And then Escape from LA is more of like a satire of the genre and of LA, which again, I don't know how to take that. It's fun for what it is, but it's definitely not like an Orion classic. I like the product placement. It's like you're finally trying to sell something. Marty, you son of a bitch. Anyways, okay, enough of this. So, yeah, and so that's the idea of Dog Walker, and that's the idea. Like, you got your shit together. Enjoy this. And it's like there's red pill themes in there, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's not a preaching manifesto of, like, the words of Rolo Tomassi or any, like, you know how feminism and, like, woke shit is, like, preachy and then you don't like the show? It's not like that. It's like it's a good thing on its own merits, but if you are red-pilled and you do know all this stuff, you're going to be like, dude, I recognize this. I recognize this. I recognize this. It's like how we joked about Deep Space Nine. Everybody talks about it being the best Star Trek ever. And I keep pointing out, like, you do realize this is the same woke garbage you hate everywhere. The difference is it's just written well and acted well. But it's still the exact same DEI themes you've been annoyed with. And I'm like, I even know that, and I still like it. It's still my favorite. It just goes to show you, it's not the ideology so much that you dislike as it is really shitty storytelling. So yeah. So what Deep Space Nine was to woke is what I think the Dog Walker will be to Red Pill. And that's it. And that's for you. Assault on Precinct 13. Which one? There's two. Or do you mean the one that's done? Okay, yeah. Moving on past this. So the whole point of this was to do something I haven't done on the sidebar. I need a little pause. Let's put some dumb shit up here.
I've talked to Ryan Stone once. I'm pretty sure the whole conversation I pushed him like pretty hard.
What was hard, Ariel?
The therapist will essentially give them SSRIs, which I think the sexual effects that SSRIs have on the body, right?
Some. There's tons of like MAOs and like tricyclics that you're talking about, like the type of SSRIs that used to be given to pedophiles. We don't give those to men. We don't give those to men. But he's not as informed as, like, I think he would like to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I have to read now, so I got to put the reading glasses on. A lot of reading. And Rolo's stuff is he always has to use that goddamn Garamond or whatever, so it takes me forever to read it. I don't think, like, I've never added Rolo's work to the sidebar because I'm like, Rolo's right there. He's doing it himself. I don't need to double up on the thing. I'm starting to. I don't know if I regret it or not, though. I don't know. The hell is all this? He's got a new thing on his sidebar where he's got a bunch of books from Mary Stone, James Patterson. Who the fuck are these people? Now I'm kind of curious. Guilty Wives. Are these just ads? I'm so confused. Interesting. Anyway, so like you go through, and arguably, if you don't know anything about Rolo, if you don't know anything about Red Pill, and you want like the 10,000 foot overview of the sexual marketplace and sexual dynamics, there's really no better source than the first 2 years of Rational Male. That's really it. Like, yes, everybody, the book is great. I'm not going to not recommend that at all. But if you really don't know, just read The Best of Rational Male, years 1 and 2. And the idea here is I'm going to spend a bunch of time on that here. It's like the missing thing of the sidebar. Some people get paid in advertising. You wouldn't know. Yeah, I'm sure they would. I can go down that route. Why advertise for other people when you can advertise for yourself? It's one of Cooper's advice for me, and it was pretty good. I liked it. Forced me to keep having things done. So his very first thing on there is there is no one. And that's like probably one of the best ways to overcome guys' stupid, delusional, calls it the Disney fantasy, right? There is no one. The idea is there's no soulmate. There's not a single person that's there for you. There's not, because it forces, and it's one of those arguments, like there's two arguments. One's for action, one's for inaction. This is an inaction argument. Just wait. The right one will come along. Setting yourself up for failure. There is no right one. Most women tend to be within a range of acceptable, with a good chunk of them that are outside of the range of acceptable. So when you tell a guy, just keep waiting for the one, you're just waiting for when a girl, like if you're not taking active role in what you're doing, like relationship wise, you're just waiting for a girl who needs you more than wants you. And needs are always temporary. A girl has babies, all of a sudden she's desperately in need of a guy with a good job and a good house. You know what I mean? Then the kid turns 5, goes to school. She's got 8 hours free in a day, and she met the threshold for half of your money in a divorce. Now she doesn't need you anymore. Now it's like, well, but I didn't really want him. I just needed him. But now that I don't need him, I don't want him. So yeah, it's unhealthy. And I think this is one line. In my estimation, one-itis is an unhealthy psychological dependency that is the direct result of continuous socialization of the soulmate myth in pop culture. Again, is it from pop culture? Is it from something else? Doesn't matter. Will you better encapsulate the idea about it if you assume it is from pop culture? Sure, go for it. Then you move on to his next article. The cardinal rule of relationships, which is really, again, this is one of the ones I reference probably more than most. I've got probably like a top 10 list. This would be on it. And it's summed up really quickly. The rest is just expanding on it. In any relationship, the person with the most power is the one who needs the other the least. Like that's weird. Isn't that like what feminists and communists do? They talk about things strictly as like power dynamics. Well, do you also know how they're always complaining that all of a sudden, like the leftists are this now the conservatives realize that power is all that matters, friend enemy distinction in that, and blah blah blah. Look, it's the rules that have been set. This is about navigating. Red Pill's never been about an ideological good. It's about here's the landscape, here's how you navigate this path. And in this case, yeah, looking at it, at least having an idea of the power dynamics at play is very important. So yeah. And that's just it. And that's the reason that the guys that she didn't even like him. She gave her virginity to some random guy she never met before because he didn't care. He didn't care. The guy who did care, the guy who took her out to dinners, the guy who was willing to wait 3 months for it. There's like a great follow-up to this from the Red Pill. It was an article for the Red Pill women, if you can believe that, where it was, don't do things that only stupid men will fall for if you don't want a stupid man. And that was the idea of these slutty chicks who feel slutty, but they don't want their man to think they're slutty, and so they make them wait 3 months until they give them some and settle down in a relationship, or they wait for commitment first. It's like, yeah, dude, the only people who are going to do that are people with no other options, and those are the people that you don't want. You don't want. That's why I like Rolo stuff, because it's not prescriptive at all. I still don't understand why people keep arguing about, what do you prescribe? It's like, dude, he is so far from prescription. It's almost too, like, if I had to have a complaint about this, it's almost too abstract. If you're not actively percolating this down into your day-to-day decisions, there's nothing in here for you other than the feeling of being smart. But that's not his fault. He puts the onus of action on you, which is a very rare thing for do. People are like, hey, you're responsible, man. Good luck. When was the last time you heard somebody say that? It's always about risk aversion and shit. So moving on. So yeah, the cardinal rule of relationships. Well, that's good. And we're still on like the basics, right? The desire dynamic. Again, this is one of the most important ones. I think it's definitely in Rolo's top 10 list. You cannot negotiate desire. And that's the summary of this one. And he's like, yeah, people are just willfully ignorant of this. They always think you can negotiate desire. Anytime you hear somebody talk about communication, ultimately that's asking for a negotiated desire. And the reason that doesn't work is because our frontal lobe doesn't define desire. Our limbic brain does. The great quote he has in here, it's actually one of his headers. The negotiated desire only ever leads to obligated compliance. Right? And that's the thing. It seems like for you guys, you're a switched on audience. You've been here long enough. You know what you're doing. Well, except for the one guy who asked like a really weird question. Hey, what's dread? Shut up. Quit fucking with me. Yeah, you know this. Okay, yes. If you communicate, you say you have needs, you say you want this. She's like, okay, I'll do this. Just make sure you do the trash. All you're ever getting is obligated compliance. At best, by the way. At worst, it's just reneging on all the promises. That's it. Promise, baby. We'll have sex tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes around. I was totally gonna, but then you said that thing and it just soured me to the whole idea. And now I don't want to anymore. It's like, how convenient. How convenient you throw this minefield on my way so you have an excuse to not do what you didn't want to do anyway. Good thing we had this conversation. All it does is build resentment. Just build resentment. And even if it does work, what you're going to get? You're going to get one of those, what do they have them? Breaking Bad. Remember that? The first scene, the birthday hand job while she's shopping on eBay. It's like, is that the life you want? Is that what you want? Well, what are my other options? Oh, just stay tuned, sir. Stay tuned. There's so much more. Again, moving on. Oh, let me quickly do a chat thing here. Read Dread. Data Spotlight. It's my evening. Talking to people for 2 hours. Don't hide your eyes behind. Eric Quinn, stop being weird, man. Don't hide your eyes. Fucking parasocial bullshit. Stop doing that. Anyway, schedules of mating, and this is kind of where you get some of the stuff that really pisses people off. Schedules of mating. It's the dual mating strategy, and that's the idea of alpha fucks and beta bucks. Very common thing. David Buss, all the Evo site guys were like 100% on board with it until all of a sudden funding was at stake, and now they're like, oh, technically it's not. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And that's why you notice a lot of red pill guys are very, I wouldn't say anti-science, like skeptical science. Very skeptical to science. But it's not even the scientific method. It's science like trademark, And the idea here is, I don't think he has a quote on this one. Not that it's worth taking. Yeah, he kind of goes over like cucking, cheating, The one thing that gets me, before we get started, it's on this one. He calls it proactive cheating. It's a single mommy dilemma, which it's an interesting way to frame the situation. I don't know how useful it is because I don't really need to analyze and have like a frontal lobe justification for not wanting single moms, That's everybody kind of knows that. And the only guys that tend to are the ones that don't have other options. This is the hottest girl I could get. Luckily, she's got the anchor tied around her, the single mom thing. But the idea, he frames that as cheating. So if you're in a marriage, girl cheats on you, has a baby, cuckolding, she sleeps with somebody outside the marriage, has a baby, you're left to raise it. Proactive cheating is just, it's like preemptive strike, preemptive defense on Iraq or whatever. Well, she went and had her fun and had her kid, and now you're there to pick up the pieces. But the only difference there is time. Well, she didn't do it while she was with you. She did it before, so it's okay. I like it in that it forces somebody to actually think about their position, Oh, she didn't cheat. She just had she's just a single mom. She had a rough life. Like, yeah, well, if she had a baby from somebody else while you were together, you'd be really mad. So what's the issue here? Is it the issue is the children, or is it the issue how she treated you, or what? Yeah, I want a girl to give me her all. Well, do you? Would you prefer that she waits until that nobody else wants her but you? Or would you prefer she waits when she has options to see you? But you see, it all kind of goes down to genuine. It's a rabbit hole, man. It really is. And so for a lot of guys, it's good to see. Anyways, the idea here, cads versus dads, alpha fucks, beta bucks. The idea that women are attracted to two parallel tracks of men. Good providers and good genetic material / lovers, right? The idea being those are your instinctive drives, and then there's a lot of sociological factors because women have a social aspect and a biological aspect to attraction, right? If you're in, a famine situation, you're caught in like London or whatever, there's the guy who's like a great genetic specimen, but he lives in a dirt hut, which you're like, no. But then there's the aristocrat, well off, great childbearing, R versus K selection kind of stuff. But he's kind of like a manlet, and you're like, whatever. So girls will make that subconscious choice, to focus on the beta buck side of their family creation and not the alpha fuck side. And some girls go the other way. I'm just gonna sleep with that dude in the dirt hut. We're gonna make 10 kids. 8 will survive. It'll be fine. Thing is though, you're never gonna find the same quality in both men because ultimately the goals of both men are entirely different. The alpha fucks guy is strictly about sexual attraction, anxiety, the cardinal rule of relationships. The guy who's building a life and is a good father can't be aloof. You have to care. You can't build things unless you care. And so the idea there's that constant struggle between those two ones there. What does he mean? What should I do? What should I value? It's not. He's telling you the landscape, man. Figure it out for yourself. Which one do I want to be? I don't know. It's a good question. Which one do you want to be? The one thing I will say about it actually is for a lot of guys, they're divorced now and they just want to get back in the game. They want to be the cat. They want to be the hot dude in the dirt hut. But then as soon as they start interacting, because they're so used to being the husband, that they act like a boyfriend. They act like a boyfriend, but they just are like, I don't want to date. I just want casual flings. And it's like, well, you're sending mixed messages. So a lot of this is just understanding to be able to compartmentalize. What it is do you want out of this relationship? Do you want to be just the situationship? Well, then act like one. If you want to settle down, well, act like that too. But you got to pick a lane. And you can't get mad at women if you act like one, say you want another, and then they get confused. It's like, what? Alpha AK, $5 1 cent super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Finally, the proper pennyage here. Son of a bitch, Bishop. Ryan talking about his new book reminds me of that Gordon Ramsay meme. Finally, some good fucking food. I like that. Dude, I'm psyched. I like all my books, even when I hate them. But this one I'm psyched about. It's something completely different. It's something new. It's exciting. And the best part of it is it's fucking competently executed. Like, you have no idea. It's competently executed. How many people try new things and get it right the first time? Hawk Twa, fucked up. No, this one isn't a fuck up. This one's good. This one's good. Anyways, back to the next one here. So we're still on the basics. We got a few more. Buffers. These ones are pretty quick, so we'll go through them quick. Rejection's better than regret. Anyways, he talks about the different buffers that guys use. And these are just coping strategies to avoid the pain of rejection. Because, limbic brain, there's real risks around rejection in old Paleolithic times. If you got rejected, you basically starved. You had no children. So we selected for people who were averse to being rejected, right? The ones he brings up, long distance relationships, A, don't exist. There's no such thing as a long distance relationship. B, it's hamstringing yourself of just the hope that the girl will eventually. And how many guys have gone to college, like with their high school girlfriend staying home, or her going to college while he stays home, and then 6 months later they break up anyway? That was 6 months of wasted time holding on to a fantasy. Let's just be friends, same thing. Guys are like, oh, friends. Well, that means I can just, work up the courage and we'll get back to where we were and everything great. No, it's let's just be friends is a girl's way of saying, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore, but I know if I reject you hard enough, you're probably going to grate me. So I will just do it in a way that makes you feel like you won. Okay. It's her protective instinct. It's not yours. And then there's the emails, instant messages, texts, everything that's not sleeping together. And you'd be amazed, even now. Like, guys in this chat, I know you know who you are. You know who you are. The ones who, fucking Sam. You know who you are. The ones who are like, yeah, I'm making so much progress with this girl. And it's like all these things that don't involve sleeping together. It's like, look, until you've slept together, nothing you do counts. It's one of the few things that Rusha said that was amazing. Until you've slept together, nothing you do matters. It does not even factor in. You're not even at one yet. Is that true? Does it matter? If you act as if it's true, you tend to make better decisions. And he kind of goes like, Facebook, online dating, objectivation of gender, idealization of gender, scarcity mentality, older women, younger women, like all the it's funny too when you look, it's like his 5th post done in like 2008 or 2010 or whatever. And it's all the online internet nonsense about like, oh, old women with egg cartons and young women she's 35, you sick fuck. All of this is here. We were talking about this stuff 15 years ago or 2011, like 12 years ago. And they're still arguing and bickering over it. It's like, the ones, and then like porn, obviously that's the big one. A lot of guys are like, oh, that's cheating. And like, some guys are just using it as a salve. Like, oh, I don't want to bother getting laid. I'll just jerk it instead. All right, well, fair enough. Oh, there's addictions. No FAP. It's like all that nonsense. It's all just a buffer. The leagues. Oh, this girl's out of my league. There's no such thing as a league. I still laugh. One of my favorite things on, as far as like viral Twitter things was this one chick, Danny California. She's been on the show once or twice. And she was, hey girls, let's all talk about that one phase where we slept with a fat dude. And it's funny. It's like all these really pretty girls, their experience of like, yeah, he was charming enough, kind of poor, but I just got off a bad breakup and it seemed like something new and something different. And it's all these chicks sleeping with absolute deadbeats. Like not even rich. It's not like John Candy, big, tall, humorless, Patrice O'Neill types. No, it's just some random fat guy who just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And they afterwards are like, probably wouldn't do it again. But it's, leagues. Leagues are the most subjective thing ever. Anyways, back to the super chats here. Sam Whiskey with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you and F you, Sam. Father's Day and your kid looks like the UPS driver. Jesus. Fucking guy. Next article. So we got imagination, social matching theory, and alpha. So imagination. And that's the idea here, is that women don't want full disclosure. Stop talking so goddamn much. There's a whole bunch in it, and that's fine. You should probably give this stuff a read if you want to. The key point of it is, though, is that whatever you're doing, whatever you are, whatever you think you are, cannot match up to what her imagination portrays you as. And that goes both directions. You can be the biggest bag of shit on earth, But if she's attracted to you, she will only focus on the parts that she likes, and she will ignore the parts or hand wave the parts she doesn't like. And all the things you do that would normally be horrible, she'll reframe them in a light-hearted way. You know, it's justification. It's not explanation. Same thing. If you're that schlubby beta husband that she can't stand and she's not attracted to, you can do the most amazing thing ever. You can save her children from a house fire. And she'd be like, oh, he just did that because he wanted to get in my pants. I just know he's probably started that fire. You know what I mean? Everything you've done is phrased in the worst possible light. And that's because just attraction's the only thing that matters. Attraction and need. So take that for what it is. And so then the big idea there is, dude, she's going to think what she thinks. You're not going to be able to convince her one way or another. All you can do is bring her out of her fantasy. Let her have her fantasy. Then social matching theory. And that's where he talks about, I guess the photo kind of quotes at the beginning. It's like how to spot a rich guy. And it's this really hot, thin chick with a giant fat dude holding hands walking by the pool. I think this is, oh no, it's not. I thought it was going to be the first time he uses that, his infamous chart that everybody has been shitting on for the last 10 years. But it's the idea that men and women are different ultimately. You know, women, I'm gonna autist this because I can't think of a better way to explain it. But so women have looks. And then, you know, let's say looks, personality, career, all that stuff, right? Looks take up about 80% of what a guy looks for when he looks at a girl. Looks and pleasantness and sexual availability. Let's say those three things. And they are very front-loaded in a girl's life. Guys, on the other hand, you have your looks, you have financial security, you have excitement, you have pre-selection, status, all kinds of things. There's like 15 different things. And they're all back-loaded with the exception of looks. Looks are front-loaded with everybody, right? Youth is always better than not youth. So with guys, everything is back-loaded. And the way that plays out is women peak very early and then drop off a cliff later on. Guys, on the other hand, start low and they slowly peak and then they drift off gradually. The two funny parts of this too is because everybody gets this wrong. I'll probably expand on this more when we get to the actual chart, but the part they get wrong is they assume that the male and the female peak are the same. They're not. The woman's peak, way higher than a guy's peak will ever be. Until you get to like the 0.01% of people. The hottest 19-year-old girl on Earth and the most hottest guy there, like it's not even comparable. So that's always kind of funny. Like guys like, oh, I'll get my comeuppance. Well, at your comeuppance, you're about like 80% of what like the hottest random young woman will be anyway. So just accept it. But that's fine because most guys aren't even close to that. So you'll be okay. Just be aware. Doesn't matter how powerful you get. You'll never have the same over 9,000 power as like Goku-et. And then the next one is one of my favorites. It's not one of the most, it's not one of the best, but it's referenced, alpha. And that was kind of, it's around 2011. So this is the same time that Athol K was talking about alpha and beta as like hormonal response behaviors. Royce was talking about it as, he said it was like pre-people, but he would mostly talk about it about behaviors. But he focused a lot on the emotional side of it. 'Cause it was funny. Some of the ugliest dudes, he's like, dude, this guy's got Riz. Rolo, same thing. It was mostly about the behaviors and the type of person and the aloofness of it. So everybody focused on a different thing. And then Vox Day, of course, he focused on like botany. Well, these yellow jacket bumblebees are alpha and these ones are gay. And you're like, oh, fuck. It's a good thing he wasn't red pill. But yeah, their stuff got mixed up so much. It's been a constant list of confusion. It's just Greek letters, man. They just use these to denominate, you know, first, second, third order effects. But now, well, Vox said it and Rolo said it. Therefore, like, no. Alpha can be many things. But he uses the example of Alpha Buddha Corey Worthington. It's the guy that just doesn't care. And he had a big house party, wrecked his parents' place when they were on vacation. They come home. He makes it on the national news. And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, do you have anything to say for yourself? He's like, sorry. Can you take off your glasses, sir? He's like, no. Ner. I don't know how Australians say no. They always add some R in there. Ner. So, yeah, it's funny. And he contrasts it between the concept of being alpha, or of having sexual desire, raw sexual desire, and then how a lot of like the Christian to conservative types talk about, well, that's the leader of men. They focus 100% on pure acceptance and social status, right? And then the societal scumbags, it's like, yeah, but this guy's just some drug dealer out of his house. Why is he getting all the poon? Why is the drugged out rock star getting it? And the idea is he shows them as like a Venn diagram, like the concept of alpha, the concept of, conformity, and the concept of just raw sexual attraction, the mud hut guy. And he shows there's some overlap, but they're ultimately different combatants. Like, just because you're a leader of men doesn't mean you're going to have alpha qualities. You're just not. Otherwise, Bill Gates would be the sexiest man alive. Just because you're a dirtbag drug dealer doesn't mean you're going to have those same alpha sexual desire qualities, but there is overlap between them. The problem is people look at the symptom and then they assume that's the thing. It's not the thing. There's different things. So yeah, that's the basics. And it's funny too, because like just to explain this took an hour or like 30 minutes. It's like an hour one right now. And that's just the basics. You could probably read through that in a day. And then you move on to like plate theory and stuff. So let's make fun of somebody else.
We know that these videos really prey on vulnerable young men who have not had many experiences in dating.
That goofy boy has a point. So next is plate theory. He's got 6 things on it. I think we can rip through this pretty quickly, so I might lump this together with plugged in. So plate theory starts it off, just spin more plates. And that's the idea. Plates isn't just dating one girl at a time. Plates is having multiple options. It doesn't mean you have to, and this is one thing that the Christians always get really weird about. They're like, oh, I just don't want to waste until marriage. It's like, you don't have to be fucking a girl. Well, didn't you just say that if you didn't sleep with her, nothing counts? It's like, yeah, I did, but that's not the point. The point is here, you have to be able to and not lie to yourself. It's way easier when you actually do it to not lie to yourself. But again, it's not required. It's just extremely difficult. And if you want to go that route, fill your boots. But the idea is to have multiple sexual options. So that way you don't hamstring yourself with anyone. Remember that? The cardinal rule of relationships? This is how it plays out. Plate theory. All right, date a bunch of women. Date 100 women. Date 30 women. 30 women before 30. 50 women before 30. And hate the Jews, a.k.a. Myron Gaines. Like, fucking Jews. But that's the point. Because most of your guys' problems are like, well, what happens if a girl does this? What happens if she does this? If you're dating 5 girls, do you really care if one girl's acting out of pocket? Like, no. You're just going to stop calling her. I got another 4 that don't have to deal with this shit with. In my personal life, that was the same thing too. At the time, I had 3 girls I was dating. The one that literally inspired the book, The Dog Walker, the girl I'm with now. And then there was this stripper that I met in my buddy's bachelor party. And the one was kind of a pain in the ass. The other one was like a huge pain in the ass. I didn't really like her to begin with. And then the third one was like, dude, I've been plating her for like a year and just like nothing. She's never done anything to make me shake my head and go, oh, fuck, what am I doing? So I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. But do you think, dude, stripper with giant tits, do you think a guy would have like not done anything and suckled up to her to, oh, dude, I got to get back in on there? It's like, no, I had other options. It's fine. That's the only way you get there, though, is abundance. And then for non-exclusivity, plate theory 2, that's just, a woman would rather share one high-value man than be saddled by a faithful loser. And that's the thing, too. This is actually one of the main themes of The Dog Walker, was like plate theory 2, non-exclusivity. It's like if everybody's happy, if everybody's getting what they want, is it really immoral? You know? Oh, it totally is immoral. And then the idea is the character in there, he's kind of like noticing that the more he sticks to that fake morality, the worse his life gets. And then once he kind of embraces it, and a lot of it's like a rejecting of his dad, like, oh, my stepdad was like that, fuck that. And then once he realized, like, hey, maybe he had a point. Hey, morning, Winemore, it's good to see you, sir. So yeah, it's like a girl would rather have be on that rotation of 5 girls you're dating than to be saddled with the guy who hyper fixates on her. And it's not like I think this. Every guy in their own dating life has seen it. Dude, when I had a hard on for this girl and I did nothing but trying to appease her and I never looked at any other girls and all that, and she just dumped me. And then some of the most loyal chicks you ever met was when you had 3 girls, when you had a girl calling you while you're with the other one. And you'd think she'd get mad over that, but she doesn't. Not only does she not get mad, she tries harder to make you happy. I'm going to beat that bitch because girls like competition. I wonder if treating people as disposable is also doing harm in the aggregate. Well, that's just it. You're not treating people as disposable. You're treating your attention, your affection, and your commitment as conditional. It's not about them being disposable. I mean, unless you're a sociopath. They're not disposable. It's just you have zero tolerance for bullshit. They're as disposable as they want to make themselves. Yeah, people value things they have to work for. There's 100 different ways I can express this, but ultimately that's it. They would rather have to work to keep you than have you all to themselves. And it makes sense when you frame it in that way, right? Like, would you want a prize that nobody else has wanted that you never had to compete for? You've been given something for free. What do? You just throw it on a bookshelf somewhere. Here's a simple example. Here's a bunch of books I was gifted, and they're just sitting on the bookshelf. Here's the books I wrote. I'm putting them up front. Same thing. Next one, he talks about plate theory 3, transitioning. So much stuff in here. It's mostly him breaking down a guy's field report, so there's nothing really much to add. I guess it can really be summed up by, like, men literally live and die according to their options, so it stands to reason that they ought to entertain a prolonged period in their lives where they're open to exploring the most options they have to access while concurrently developing and improving themselves prior to making a commitment of this magnitude. And I actually think it was better put by, I can't remember if it was Matti Anand or Vasily Zaitev. There were two guys in the red pill. And it was until you've had multiple women for a prolonged period of time, you'll never truly understand women. And that's the idea. It's like, dude, you should be dating a lot of women so that way you understand what it is you like and don't like about women before you even think of settling down. And that's ultimately the sentiment behind the you shouldn't settle down before 30. Everybody always talks about like, oh, so wait till men hit the wall. It's like, no. You don't know what you want and you don't have enough experience to say. For some reason, that's like a non-question on every human endeavor except dating. It's like the most motivated reasoning that women have given ever. I'm going to sleep with 30 women. And like, there's no abs, like marketers love throwing numbers, 30 women, 50 women. If you haven't slept with 1,000, mostly women, then you're just a fucking beta. Like, it doesn't matter how many. I mean, it's more than one, it's more than two, more than three, but there will be a point where you start to see the girls start to blend together. You're like, this one, they're kind of the same. It's once you get to that point where you realize like, and you're kind of over it. There's no more novelty. That's where you want to be. How many that is for you, that depends. Smarter guys probably don't need as many. Dumber guys probably need a hell of a lot more. Maybe you just enjoy the process, so you want higher. It's ultimately subjective, but you need to be able to be like, to quash any idea in your head that there's like, oh, this one's different. She's not like the other girls. They're all like the other girls. And that's okay. It just so happens that 80% of the other girls are fucking petulant children and 20% of them are pretty good. And like, of those ones, maybe like, one or two of those are like, that's actually like really good. But you don't know that until you go through the numbers. You have to slog it. Same as anything. What's it like to be in the 1,000-pound club at the gym? I don't know. Get lifting. You let me know. Siege D, $1.99 super chat. Thank you for the words of wisdom, Ryan. Thank you very much, sir. Hey, Whiny. Hey, Ryan, what advice would you give to the woman so they're not just being a woman a guy is sleeping with to get to know women? Fuck would I know? I don't give women advice. Why would you want to hear from me? All I'm going to tell you is the shit that I want. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. A lot of guys, they have to opine. Like, oh, it needs to be like, some things are just out of my lane. I'm the red pill guy. I can't tell women what to do. I can guess. What advice would I give to women so they're not just being a woman a guy sleeping with to get to know women? Like, my guess is just, look, sleeping with is just like the entrance fee. You don't even get a chance at a relationship with a man that you might want until you've slept with them. So you're better off getting that out of the way right away and then leading with everything else. All the other stuff. You know all the other stuff that's good for relationship stuff? But again, I could be 100% wrong. I have not dated 100 men. I have not been a woman who's dated 100 men. I've not been a girl on the other side of this stuff, and I've never read it. I don't have interest in reading that shit. So, I don't know. That's my guess. Oh, rephrase. How come your wife got to stay around? Well, that's an easy one. For me, it was like it's the what's the word? Climax of Fuccfiles. That's like the one thing. It's been out for 5 years. Not one person has noticed it, which leads me to believe that I probably didn't write it well enough, which is dog walker's going to be better for that. Like I said, 3 plates at the time. There was the dog walker, there was a stripper, and there was her. And the stripper was fucking flaky, always on pills, crap like that. Dog walker, I never really liked her anyway. It was just more so fun. I could do anything, so I just didn't care. And then her. The whole time I was just dealing with some bullshit. I happened to be in Vancouver at the time. I took her to like a bondage party because I just happened to have one in North Hastings, which is like, it's like having a party in Oakland. Walking through there, that's dangerous and sketch. But whatever, it was fun. And I was like, yeah, I just realized like I'd had her as a plate for like a year. And then, slept with her before then too. And it's just not a single thing she's done between then has been bad. She was the first girl that made me food. Like no girl's ever made so much as a sandwich. They just break shit in my house. And so I just took all of the things that I learned from all the women I dated, and I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Why not? Because I had it, and I was not a fan. Anything you could think of. Some girl's probably done it. And then I was like, yeah, she just didn't do any of those. That's how she got to stay around. So yeah. I guess my advice to girls would be just be perfect. Don't ever make a mistake, and you'll be fine. I mean, that's like a very obvious one, so I use that as an example. It's the most relatable one, but there's like 100 little things. Like we went her idea of a date was to go do CrossFit outside, like fitness stuff. Like, oh, that's, and like hundreds of little things like this. And all these little things are either, and I don't want to say red flags and green flags, but they kind of are. And it just turns out there was like, all the women I had dated had X amount of green flags and X amount of red flags. I don't know what the ratio was, doesn't really matter. And then hers was not. But I had enough experience to know, okay, this is definitely an outlier for me. Now, was it because she was highly invested in me or she was just a good person? I don't know. Does it matter? Who fucking cares? But I'm not going to sit here and give you guys a top 10 list of green flags. Like, that's such bullshit. You're supposed to develop your own green flag. That's what I hate about marketing. And granted, I know I have to market because you're not going to buy these fucking books unless I put them in front of you and tell you how fucking great they are and be honest about it and sincere, which I am, and it's true, and they are, and it's great, and the new ones are even better. And I'm not lying. And if I was lying, I would not be as convincing as I am now because I am not a good liar. It's not that I like you. It's that I just don't like I don't like bullshit. But this is why I hate the marketing shit. It's because they have to tell you what to think. They have to tell you what to feel about what to think. Here's 10 green flags. Here's my top 10 list. Technically, it's your top 10 list because you're watching me and you don't know what to think, so I'll tell you what to think, and more importantly, I'll tell you what to feel about it. I always hated that shit. It's infantilization. It's no different than a Karen getting on TV talking to a bunch of adults at a political rally talking like they're her fucking kindergarten class, you know? Nick said it was great, and so I believe him. Marty? Where is the thing here? It's been a while, Marty. Take 5. And then plate theory 4, goal state monogamy. How would I even sum this up? I guess logistics. The idea is guys think, how would I even manage to? And it's about designing your life for what you want, right? And the idea here, if you're going to have 5, 6 plates, 3 plates, whatever, you have to have certain lifestyle decisions that make it. Of course, it won't catch the nuance. Yeah, but a generalized change in the way you approach things. Oh, I don't meet enough girls in my life. Well, maybe you need to make some changes in your life that put you in front of more girls. Well, why would I do that? Aren't you the one complaining about not meeting enough girls? Yeah. Well, that's the solution. Change things in your life so you're around places that have more women. Maybe instead of just doing your home gym, go to the meat market gym. Maybe your job, working around no women, is a bad job. Maybe you need to earn less money and go to this job that's full of women. Why would I want to do that? I like earning this money. Well, then you've made your decision. But you're here about a sex problem. So it's either a problem or it's not a problem. But you can't have it both ways. You can't be sitting out there working in the oil rigs, working out in your home gym, wondering why no girls come to you. You have to go where people are. It's just how society and social things work. And so it's forcing you to kind of make your own choices. And then plate theory 5, ladies game. I mean, it's just talking about how, well, women do it too. So relax. I'm not even going to go into that because it's kind of like, well, women are doing it, so why shouldn't you? What's sauce for the goose, Mr. Savick? It's like, fine, whatever. But then the next one, just abundance and scarcity. And it's kind of like, it just sums up what we've already been talking about here. Without abundance, like, every decision you make is shitty. So you have to act as if there's more options down the way. And the only way you can do that is if there is more options down the way, you know? So skipping next here. Plugged in. Plugged in. Plates and plugs. Enter the White Knight. And this is just, White Knights, the guys that defend random women they don't even know. They defend their value system, which is basically the longhouse, suckling up to the female-centric social order, or whatever they call it. Gynocentric social order, whatever you want to use. Basically the guy that treats women as his god. Not a woman, not that woman, all women, right? And he goes, yeah, those guys generally suck. You can believe me or not, but they never get what you want. Average frustrated Trump, another one, same thing. The idea there is a guy is fucking up. And so he's like, well, I just don't want women. And they're the ones that hyperfixate on herbivore men in Japan or the black pill doomers. Everybody who likes like, oh, I didn't want them. I want to live my life like fuck off. It's just coping strategy. Playing friends. You notice like a theme in this one? This is every shitty attitude guys have towards women. Playing friends. The idea that the guys have to repress what makes them masculine. And the idea of wanting to bang hot chicks is what makes us partially masculine, because it's just a guy, like girls don't want to do it, not the way the guys do. Same thing as having a dick and wanting to use it. Oh my God. So they always like, oh, you got to make friends first. You got to like fall in love first. And then you can let her know, by the way, this is great. I actually would be interested in sex now. It's like, no, it's dishonest. And that's the thing. That's why it doesn't work. It's because most women, they know, like, dude, it's a guy. Of course, every guy's wanted to sleep with me since I was fucking 13. All of a sudden this guy's walking out. He's like, oh, I'm not like those guys. I don't want to sleep with you. I want to be your friend. And then maybe it's like, yeah, you fucking liar. And that's why they don't trust those guys. The feminist allies. It's sneaky fucker game. At the worst, and let's say all that is not true. Let's say she takes you at your word. Oh, I'm not here for the sex. I'm here for the friendship. Oh, okay, good. Who do you think that's going to attract? Do you think it's possible it's going to attract women that don't like sex and don't like sex with men? Dude, this guy's great. He's everything I've ever wanted in a guy. Dickless. And then the guy's like, geez, I don't get why she won't sleep with me. I don't know. Maybe it's because you spent your entire life telling her not to. Like, what do you want from me? Playing friends. Then he follows it up with letting go of invisible friends. And that's just more, again, long distance relationships don't exist. He just expands on that. So I'm not going to expand on it again. Honor system. This one I love. It's just straight up like describing manipulation. There's always, I've talked about it before. There's 5 types of manipulation that girls use. There's anger, shame, ego, being wounded, and frame shifting. In this case, it's mostly ego, but also shame. And it's like, what's masculine? Well, if a girl gets to define it, anything that's useful to her. It's like if you ask a guy, what makes a good woman? You know what's great? A girl that puts out and has a great rack on her. And a pretty face, can talk but chooses not to. Those are all the things that we benefit from directly that require nothing from the girl. Just be there and do that stuff. Basically sex dolls. And that's the problem, is like, for us, that sounds horrific to talk about. But you talk to a girl, what makes a real man? A real man steps up and fathers these kids from Tyrone. Or a real man does what I need him to do at the time. A real man protects a random girl in the subway from a crazed Michael Jackson impersonator. It's like, oh, how convenient. Motivated reasoning. It's all about motivated reasoning. But you see what I mean? Like, you get through this, all this stuff. And here's the funny part of this too. So I'm going to get to unplugging and game and then communications. Oh, fuck, he's got a lot. Anyways. Yeah, we're not going to have time for all this, but we're going to as far as we can. The thing about this too is it's funny because everybody's like, dude, how do you not know this? Well, there's a reason that it's so, like, everybody knows this now. It's because this guy was sitting here posting this shit everywhere, and everybody was like posting it everywhere for like the last 10 years. So it's a reason it sounds old hat right now. It's because at the time it wasn't. And at the time when he was writing this down, feminists were fucking livid. And beta male type pundits were livid. Dr. Phil was fucking angry. Dr. Oz was even angrier. They were doxing people. They were getting them fired from their jobs. They were, oh, dude, don't you dare run in the Republican ticket. You're out of here. All these people were just nuked left, right, and center. It's funny, too. The only one left. Fucking Tukey McSlayer. Thank you, Snuggles. Oh, you asked before, why'd you pick her over the other girls? Brings you coffee in your merch cup. Get it now. Store.ryanstone.com. Use promotional code PROMOTION. Save $5 off. Just now. Do it. Don't make me fucking go over there and talk to you about this. I will ban Marty every 5 minutes until you do something. Yeah, Real Man supports ex-porn stars on their conservative network. Oh, you know what the weird part is? There's like 3 people you could be talking about right now, Dave. I don't even know which ones it is. Is it the one on that Chris Burnett's been talking about? Is it the one on the Daily Wire? Or is that one Preacher? Who knows? Oh yeah, or the Whatever podcast. There's 4 people I could have been. Anyway, where'd I leave off? 5 stages of unplugging. Oh yeah, these ones are quick. We can just rapid fire through these. God knows I've talked about these enough. And this is what gets me, by the way. So like you see, even me talking about them and summing up them, you could probably if you were a fast reader, you could probably read through these at the same pace I'm reading through. So when I tell people to get in the sidebar, it's like I'm not telling you to kill the Nemean lion. You know, it's a very, very digestible series of steps. And it's like, it's your own life. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And so here he just talks about the 5 stages of unplugging, the same as the 5 stages of grief. And ultimately it is, because it's not women per se that guys are very infatuated with. It's the value system. It's a belief system. It really is the golden calf with tits, the longhouse. It's just, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. There's the idea of like, we've been raised by women. Men are out in the workplace now. We don't have an agrarian lifestyle anymore, so guys just aren't in the house. Add to that, half the couples are divorced. Guys aren't in the house when the kids are being raised, and they're also not in the house when they're at all, even when they're not being raised. And so, yeah, you get a bunch of guys, and then you get guys are kicked out of the schools because everybody's got pedo fever. Oh my God, everybody's diddling kids. Get all the men out of here. Now all the women are diddling kids. They're like, how could this have happened? You get a guy for his entire formative life has never had a male authority figure at all in his life. And then you wonder why he grows up like deifying women. Wow, it's a fucking conundrum. It's a Scooby-Doo mystery. And I'm not trying to sit here like, and I see Sean, I see your thing here too, and you're not wrong, but here's the thing. I'm not sitting here telling you about who to hate, who to blame, and who the outgroup is. That's loser victim mindset bullshit. That's a longhouse thing. I'm a victim. Okay, whatever. Look, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it, so you best learn to navigate it. And the best way to navigate it is to intellectualize it. Move from the limbic brain to your frontal lobe so you can understand, okay, instinctively, I want to take women's side. Instinctively, I want to deify women, but these are the reasons why, so I can at least make a conscious decision to avoid my instincts, in this case, for my own benefit. Well, you can't go against your instincts. Well, every time you go on a diet or a cut, you do, so you can figure it out. Anyways, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And then he adds the jaded part after, which it's surprising. I wouldn't think so, but there's a lot of guys over the time that have just gone fucking loopy. They gone through all these stages. They like Roosh, great example. He just went fucking loopy and jaded. It's like, bro, you were the Kwisatz Haderach. You looked at the abyss stared back, and now you're like, man, fuck this abyss. It's all right, fine, whatever. Next one, bitter taste of the red pill. And this is where he brings up, like, yeah, just because it's good with women doesn't mean it's going to line up with your personal morality. And that's where he brings up, like, the dark triad characteristics. Wait, narcissism is attractive? Wait, psychopathy is attractive? Girls want to fuck murderers? Yeah. Just because it's attractive doesn't mean you're not going to find it morally squeamish. And that's okay. That's a decision you have to make. Where on this level of moral squeamishness do I want to put myself? Versus, like, how much do I really not need that extra notch? And that's a choice you have to make for yourself. Tell me what to think, Ryan. No, fuck yourself. There is plenty of listicles from many other former and current members of Rule Zero that give you that. Because then, to be fair, it's not because I don't think they're good people or anything like that. I just think a lot of them are jaded. Because I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret that guys from behind the camera know here. A lot of the audience, like not you guys are great, but the other ones, a lot of the audience are just fucking retarded. I mean that too. I mean sincerely that. It's not like, well, they just need more. No, it's like there's no helping. There's no whatever. At some point, if you're in here long enough, you're either going to be monetizing them like Project Evil with Clary, or you're just going to leave. Or you're just going to bitch about being run up the flagpole. You know? All right, moving on. Dispelling the magic. Women get the men they deserve. Aw. This is the idea of just, women have the exact kind of life they want to live. God, they always end up like spinsters. She's such a failure. It's like, if she didn't want that, she would have done something else. We have the exact life that we wanted to, whether we know it or not. And that's kind of one of the things where you realize, like, people ultimately have free will, which is weird because you think the Christians wouldn't be so mad when he's talking about it. God gave you free will. Well, they excised it in the way I don't like. Huh. Funny how that works. Compensation is the next one. Let me see. How do I even... So I guess the best way to sum this one up is like, fake it till you make it. A lot of guys talk about that during your self-improvement journey. Fake it till you make it. Act like you're the king. Don't dispel it. Well, what happens when you, like, how do you know when you're still faking it versus not making it? It's like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, he doesn't make that decision, but for me, what I decided was like, it doesn't really matter. Imposter syndrome? Nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody is clueless. We're all A/B testing. Anybody who's ever given me marketing advice knows just as much as I do. And they speak with 100% confidence. And I do it too. Because that's all you've got right now. This is like the best that I've got. So I'm going with it until I learn something new. And then I'm going with that. So yeah, fake it till you make it. When do you know you've made it? You don't. Doesn't really matter anyway. People don't know what's in your heart. They don't know your feelings. They don't know the abstract expression of your identity. They just know what you're doing. Oh, I'm faking it till I make it. I got 6-pack abs and a killer body and a chiseled jaw and I look just great. The girl will know I'm faking it. She doesn't know that. She doesn't see, oh, he looks like the guy who put 1,000 hours into the gym versus he looks like he's natural. They can't tell the difference. So fuck it. You made it when other people assume you've made it. That's the lie. Next one here is identity crisis. Rolo, is it possible to identify with women without compromising yourself? He's like, no. You can't still act like, and it kind of leads into, it's an introduction to Dream Girls and Children with Dynamite, Purple Pill, which is definitely top 10, top 5. It's the idea of these guys that, like, they hear the words, but they still can't get out of their own moral framework. It's a detrimental moral framework. It's somebody else defined it for them. It's longhouse shit. It's like, yeah, just because you have all of these red pill things, the game, the frame, the dread, all this, if you still can't get out of your head those goofy, feminine-centric blue pill goals, then you're just going to fuck it up. Like, if you think dread is a covert contract that, well, if I just make my wife feel anxious about losing me, if I just, get myself looking good enough, then she's going to come back and suck my dick and everything will be good. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's classic Children with Dynamite. You're giving a kid a piece of dynamite. Like, here, don't kill yourself. It doesn't work that way. You can't just take your shitty goals. You have to redefine your goals as your own self-interest. And if you don't, it doesn't work. Swerve. Hypergamy doesn't care what Skyrim mods I use. Yeah, you've only made it when you have a Bugatti in every color. Well, the new alpha male car is the Jaguar, I've been told. So yeah, anybody telling you to be, if you act alpha, you'll get a housewife. It's like, you're missing the point of this stuff. Once you understand covert contracts, it's just like really a subset of it. Next is appreciation. And this is just about sacrifice. You always think that, like, what's the best thing you can offer a woman? And a guy thinks, what would a guy appreciate out of a guy? And we appreciate sacrifice. My buddy puts his life on the line for me and I put my life on the line for him. That's a sacrificial relationship, right? That's why military buddies are some of the best buddies. Like, I still talk. Yeah, I've been out for like 10 years. I still talk with my military buddies. If they have a problem like that serious, I'm on a flight. You know what I mean? Yeah, let's do it. Fucking go. Ready. Why wouldn't that work with women? They don't think that way. They're opportunistic in the way that guys are sacrificial. So guys who treat women like men and sacrifice and hope for a reward, they're like, I don't get it. She just like assumed that's expected. Well, what the fuck did you think? You're not dating a man, or are you? You can't tell nowadays anyway. You always have to get the peak test. Kill the beta. And this is one where a guy, again, it's another point from Purple Pill. No. Every time I sleep with a girl, I forget all the stuff that we talked about, and I keep acting like a supplicating, validation-seeking idiot. What's up? And it's because you're not understanding the point here. Like, this isn't telling you what to think. It's showing you how to think. You have to take all these things, develop yourself a new personal worldview that works out in your benefit. If you're just doing it as like a parlor trick, and then as soon as a girl gives you some, you forget everything and you stop looking after your own self-interest, yeah. It's a skill you have to learn. You have to learn. Like, it's not like a diet, a crash diet. You do it for a month and then you're done. No, you're fundamentally changing how you eat. One sec. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Truth to power. And this is one where he brings up, it's actually funny. I would say a better example of this one is Swing Sets and Sandboxes, the male and female social matrix, written by Ian Ironwood. It would have been around the same time. He calls it Truth to Power. And the idea is just denying the use of power or its usage, or saying it's wrong or evil to use it, is in itself a means of using power, topping from the bottom. And that's how women use power, ultimately. They don't put it in your face. They act the victim, and they prey on your goodwill more so. And he goes, yeah, no, if you're a guy, if you're in a position of power, absolutely use it. You're supposed to use it that way. That's the whole point of it. I can't believe Pro Jared slept with all of his fans. Like, what's the point of being famous if you can't sleep with a bunch of fangirls? I mean, as long as they're of age, which I'm pretty sure Pro Jareds were all of age. They were just very whiny and complainy, but it's Pro Jared. What do you expect? What about, Huberman? Oh my God, he slept with so many of his patients. Like, well, he's trying to be a rock star psychologist. What the fuck did you think he was going to do? Oh my God, why would guys do this? Don't they know they should be seeking power, fame, and fortune for altruistic reasons and not for, like, poon? Why do you think guys did anything? Guys mostly do things to secure fucking wives and children. What do you want from me? But it's that vilification of the male experience. Everybody's always wondering, well, what about everybody's like a victim now and shit? Well, that's when you deify the female power experience. We've gone the complete opposite direction. From casting couch to DEI hires. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, Jesus. What's the point of being a Roblox stream if I can't groom? Yeah, see? Now that's I put a thing on Twitter today where this guy, he ground up Plan B pills and put them in his date's orange juice in the morning. He got 12 years of jail. And this is where I talk about, like, sexual strategy. It may be amoral, but there's nothing alpha about going to jail. Probably don't do illegal stuff where you will get caught, because that's stupid. And that's a perfect example. There is a gray area where it's like, yeah, you can do it. It's not illegal, but it's kind of scuzzy. And that's up to you. But then there is a black area where it's like, no, that's the kind of thing that gets you in the wood chipper. And I'd be like, probably don't do, like, not even probably, don't do that. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, probably not best. Storming the Capitol on January 6th, filming it for everybody, probably not smart. Going on a murder spree in Colorado, killing 6 people because they didn't let you go to their conference, because some girl said you gave her the ick, probably not a good idea. Yelling at Sydney Watson in your podcast, probably not smart. Anyways, the last one on this one is Have a Look. And this is where Rolo's like, and it's Roosh did the same thing, where it's everybody is a personal brand now. And he's not wrong. We're all brands. And there's a whole thing, like there's the monkosphere, the idea that we only have 150 people we can keep in our head at any one time. And in order to have more people, we have to, like, turn them into archetypes. Yeah, the cheap bartender, the alpha male, like, these are all abstractions, right? We need to have abstractions in order to keep that monkey sphere alive in our head. That's the idea is, as a guy, you kind of have to develop your own archetype. You could call it individuality. You could find it your own persona, whatever you want to call it. And same thing as me here. The fact that I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt is a conscious decision. The fact that I'm wearing sunglasses or these goofy shades, the reason I have a Fuck Trudeau hat, the reason I have an Arizona iced tea, bright neon one, the reason I have 50 shades of sunglasses here, the reason all this stuff is a brand. And it's the same thing. You need to have your own brand. What kind of guy are you? If somebody had a 30-second pitch as, why'd you sleep with that guy? Like, what would that say? And the idea is to be deliberate about it. And that should go without saying. So where are we at here? Jesus, we're never going to make through this. I should have done a series. Anywho, let's make fun of one more person here.
If you're sitting there going, oh, my wife's the 3, I play Tekken for pennies, my name's Ryan Stone, your life sucks. So he actually nailed it. Don't start something you won't finish. Don't start something you won't finish. Everyone have a little bit of faith. My name's Ryan Stone, I play Tekken for pennies, chill a little bit, and just go, you know what, Tate's got it.
Fuck is wrong with me? Nothing. Are you not entertained, you sons of bitches? The Kardashians had it consequences. Signed photograph of a naked man. What the hell are you talking about, Jack? I turned myself into a thumb. Yeah, scarred thumb. Exactly. Dave's sitting there. He's just a big scarred thumb. He's Ratfink Comics. That was the thing. I keep telling you that. Ratfink Comics. That's what I was trying to remember. You're now officially like the 80s and 90s grunge comic scene. How's it feel? Where did I leave off here? Next one is game. These are pretty straightforward. I don't want to go too hard into them because what's the point? But, oops. So, beta game. And for him, Rolo's like, everything is a game. It's just, does it work or does it not? And it's the idea of, like, love bombing, saying you make a good husband material, disqualifying other men. Oh, he doesn't love you. He does this. Like, all that sneaky fucker shit. He just calls it beta game. He's like, there's what they are. And it's not like they don't work. They're not great. They're not successful. And it tends to be detrimental to a guy in the long term. But hey, that's what they are. Rewriting the rules. That's when girls start freaking out. And like, oh, what are we? Where is this going? And they try to bring you back. And this is more so just about, just because she cries doesn't mean you're obliged to do what she wants. Just because you're going to hurt her feelings doesn't mean you have to do anything. And it's kind of one of those, just hold your frame, bro. If you don't want a relationship, don't have one. Even if she cries, even if she wants to change things up, don't. The pheromonal beta. This one I don't remember. I have to go look at it again. Oh! Yeah, this is the one where those stupid guys have the idea of like, yeah, don't jerk off, or you got to jerk off before your date because it'll make you more calm and relaxed. It's like, no, you don't want to be calm and relaxed. You want to be horny and agitated. Like, you want that excitement. It's like, fucking tap into it, man. Be visceral. How hard is that? Let me see here. Metagame. I guess his big thing here, to sum up, is just showing how the internet is a force amplifier for men. So the internet is to men what the sexual revolution is to women. Fair. Online dating is to men what the pill was for women. Women now have to make... Now they don't need the safe second option. Sex is no longer risky, so they can go and do what they want to do. And they kind of did what they did. The internet, same thing to guys. I could just call a girl on Tinder and fuck her in 45 minutes. The ones who can, and the ones who can't. It's a force amplifying. Just be yourself, and that's it. It's like, everybody knows this one. Maybe if yourself is a piece of shit, then maybe you shouldn't be yourself. Why don't you make yourself attractive? You are what you do. You're not an identity. You're not a woman. 3 strikes rule. Again, if a girl's making you wait for it, it's not worth it. It's one of the iron rules. Like, 3-date rule is what he was talking about there. I never had a 3-date rule. I had a 1-date rule. It wasn't really a rule. It's just if we didn't sleep together on the first date, we just never did. I'm like, all right, well, that's a rule now. Dread games. Do I really need to go over top of this? Because this is like such a rudimentary form of what's like in Dread now. I'm like, read it if you want to. It's nice as a history lesson. And then navigating the SMP, the final exam. That's the chart. You guys know the chart. Remember the chart? Here's the chart. I'll put it in here. You can look at it yourself. Where's the fucking... Here's the chart. What do I need to say? Women peak earlier. Men peak later. Let it go. It's just the way it happens. And then for communication, his next one. Medium is the message. And that's the idea. If the girl is giving you mixed signals, that is the signal. Like, there's no, if she wants to sleep with you, if she wants you, there's no ambiguity. She makes it very clear. You got to go ahead. So if you're ever confused, like, does she into me or is she not into me? She's not into you. She's leading you on. Qualities of the prince. And this is some, like, The anger that people get when a guy acts like a typical girl online dating. Acts as entitled as a woman does. People fucking hate him. But those are the guys that tend to do better. The guys that have standards. But that's a confidence thing. I'm not going to go into that one. The gift of anxiety. And again, I've talked about this a bunch too. Sexual desire comes at the tail end of anxiety. The fear of losing you, that fear of rejection, that's what female sexuality is tied to more than any other quality. Worried about losing you. Worried about losing you to somebody better. Competition, all that stuff. Yeah, your girl being worried about losing you is a good thing. You need to foster it. Try to make her neurotic? Well, a little. Because if she's not neurotic and not worried about losing, you're not going anywhere. So, how much is up to you? You figure it out. Then just get it. Just get it is girls don't want a guy who's a work. They want a guy who has it naturally. They think it has to be magic. Anybody who consciously put in effort, it's faking it. And it's the idea of shit testing. They just want a guy who gets it. They want a guy who naturally came across it. It needs to be magic. It can't be learned. But people are stupid. They can't tell the difference. They can't tell the difference. So just don't worry about it. Don't let them get to you. Next one's on here. Where'd I go? Social conventions, which I'm like, eh. It's kind of similar to what I talk about, and this is just some little social conventions that women use here, like shame to get their way, talking about men as stupid, simple creatures is good, but talking to women about complicated, unknowable beings is also good. So anything that works in their interest, they're obviously gonna it'll be socially acceptable. And that's one of those things you start to notice, that anything that's beneficial for women and detrimental to men, socially acceptable. Odd. Other things, not so much. AFC social conventions. This is all the stuff that the guys do. Guys who have no game when they want to disqualify other guys. The real good, like the two examples they use is the coping strategy of when she leaves you. Guys like, oh, she was a lesbian anyway. Or what a bitch. Oh, you dodged a bullet there. It's like, no. It's not dodging a bullet. It's just women are the way women are and you let them get away with it. Or what's the other one? The quality woman. High quality woman. Guys will always say that, and they basically mean I want women to do what I want them to do. But they're shaming people who don't do that. Paradox of commitment, that's kind of similar to the cardinal rule of relationships. Like if leaving your shitty relationship is never on the table, ultimately you're giving the other person power over your life. You have to be willing to walk away. I'm not saying you want to. I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying if you're not able to, then ultimately you're ceding power. You don't have to like it. It could be a last resort. But again, it's like nukes, man. Mutually assured destruction doesn't work if they just know you're never going to launch a nuke. Then the next part is hypergamy. I might take a break on this one. It's going to get heavy. What do we want to do now?
Hey, brother, who do you think is the funniest member of Rule Zero Squad? Now? What's your favorite comment joke of theirs? I think Ryan brings good laughs. He does. Ryan is like British humor. It's like Monty Python. And people are like, if you get it, you laugh your ass off. If you don't get it, you're like...
Fuck Ryan Stone.
People just don't get his humor. Who's the funniest one on there? You mean besides John Fitch? I think John Fitch is the funniest member of Rule Zero, but he's unintentionally funny. With the robot dogs.
Seeing this robot dog in real life was pretty surreal and terrible.
And Cappy's pretty funny. He can be pretty funny too. Who's the funniest member?
The not funniest member of Rule Zero, my ass. So the next one we get into is the disposables. And that's more examples of male sacrifice, right? They say the suicide bomber is the ultimate expression of male sacrifice, which it's a big point, but yeah. And a lot of guys worrying about, well, what if she can go against her nature? It's like, yeah, I wouldn't bank on it though. Mrs. Hyde, the idea that the dual mating strategy on women. At first, they want like just the alpha tingles, and then they want beta. They want, the nice dad, and then kids turn 5, they go back to wanting that stuff there. And they're like, yeah, but they can train themselves out of it. It's like it's built in their DNA. They have a hidden estrus cycle. Like that's it. It's frankly, well, why do women have to be like that? Well, that's what makes them women. They wouldn't be women if they didn't have these things. It's in their DNA. You have to accept it, or not. But you do what you want. The hypergamy conspiracy, and that's where, well, that doesn't exist. Some women are like that, but only high quality women. You see where all like the justifications and like the social conventions come in. They ultimately come in to hide the idea of hypergamy being a sexual strategy. The pet, he kind of brings up. "48 Laws of Power." Like, the 48 Laws, everybody reads them. It's part of the sidebar as well. But it's kind of like, don't hyper focus on everything. Like, oh, that's rule 6. That's rule 7. The idea is he's like, yeah, it's put it on the back burner. Remember it. Put it there. Stop trying to look for reasons that you're the exception to the rule and assume that you are the rule and then act accordingly. If there's an exception, you can easily pivot. But you got to stop thinking like, well, this is different. It's never different. Even when it's different, it's still never different. Hypergamy doesn't care. And yeah, it's like no matter what you do, it's like, I sacrificed everything for her. She doesn't care. And it's just, again, you see the reinforcement here. Hypergamy does not care. She slept with a man who was worse than me. Why would she do that? She didn't care. She wasn't in it for better. She doesn't want a good house to settle down with. She's already got that. That's not what she wants. She doesn't care. Relational equity. And this one is where I talk about relationships being more of a competitive monopoly and less like a piggy bank. That's where I get it. It's from this one. Well, other people talk about it too. But guys think like, oh, relationship is a piggy bank. Put in quarters for this. I did this. I did this. I did this. But then when they run into trouble, they break over the piggy bank and they're like, where's my money? And they're like, yeah, there's no money. What? Why? It's because everything you do is considered obliged. Of course, you're supposed to do that. Every guy's supposed to do that. When you need something back, there's never any built-up equity. So act accordingly. And that's about, like, why would you give somebody something then if there's nothing in it return? It's like, good question. Why would you give something like that? Well, it's because I wanted something back. Well, you're not going to. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you're doing it with expectations of reciprocity, well, then I hate to tell you this, but you're going to be disappointed. Again, it's more just like, a lot of this too is just like telling somebody to grow the fuck up. It's actually kind of amazing. It's actually kind of amazing. The next one is women regret. Rob puts it better with the one behind club. You're always going to regret the one that you didn't go for over the one that you did and failed with. So just do it. Don't ever worry about regret. Next up's the iron rules of Tomassi. We always know those rules. Actually, does he have a summary of them somewhere? Because I don't want to read each one. I'll just do the summaries. That should only take a second. Let's do that. So I'll do it in his words too. So iron rule 1, frame is everything. Always be aware of the subconscious balance of whose frame in which you are operating. Always control the frame, but resist giving the impression that you are. In other words, don't hyper focus on it. Make it effortless, but like, where is it? It's like shooting a basketball. You don't want to be like, all right, move my arm here, elbow here. You just want to shoot and go in, but you know you're going in. You know which hoop you're shooting at. Frame is always there. Just be aware of it. Just don't be obnoxious with it. Iron rule 2, never, under pain of death, honestly or dishonestly reveal the number of women you've slept with or explain any detail of your sexual experience with them to your current lover. Don't tell her. She doesn't want to know. Whatever she believes is better than anything you can tell her anyway. How many women have you slept with? I don't know. The only answer, no. We're not talking about this. Fuck that. Iron rule number 3, any woman who makes you wait for sex or by her actions implies that she's making you wait for it, the sex is never worth it. Absolutely true. Anybody here who's made to wait more than 3 dates will probably say, yeah, it was weird. She was just like a dead fish. If they want you right away. Birth control's around. There's no social hang-ups to it. There's no physical risk. If they don't want to sleep with you, it's because they don't want to. Iron rule 4, never under any circumstance live with a woman you aren't married to or planning to marry within 6 months. And that's, again, marriage, whatever kind of monogamous relationship you're deciding to go in, like something solid, a common law, marriage, whatever. But don't move in unless you're planning on, unless this is it. If you're just like, we're just dating, we'll see what happens. As soon as she moves in, again, it's because the problem is a lot of what makes you attractive, a lot of the alpha qualities, the sexual desirable, absence is like instant dread for all of that. He's never there. Well, what if he's out with somebody else? What if he's doing something? What if he's here? All that stuff works in your favor. You give all that up, that's fine. If you want to have a relationship, you're ultimately giving up some of the alpha side of sexual strategy and adopting more beta side. It's the choice to make. But when you're trying to have it both ways, that's where the problem comes. Don't try to be like, oh, it's just a situationship. Yeah, you can come on, here's a key. No, pick a lane. Pick a lane. Rule number 5, never allow a woman to be in control of the birth control. I don't know what to tell you. Surely everybody here has a friend. It's like, yeah, she said she was on birth control. All right, Dad. Number 6, women are incapable of loving a man in the way that a man expects to be loved. And I'm tired of idiots like, women can love things. They can, just not the way we want them to. They're not going to be your mom. There's no Oedipus in here. Let it go. Rooting through the trash, it's always time and effort better spent developing new, fresh perspective women than it will ever be in engaging in reconstructing a failed relationship. Never root through the trash once the garbage has been dragged to the curb. There was a reason you broke up. You can learn this the hard way or the easy way if you want to. Don't do it. What's the next one? 8? Where'd it go? Always let a woman figure out why she won't fuck you. Never do it for her. You'd be amazed in Patreon how often I had guys that were like, she didn't look like she was in the mood. She didn't look like she was this. She didn't look like it was this, so I didn't make a move. It's like, that's her job to shut you down. Don't shoot yourself down. And this is just stop stepping on your own dick. Stop making your own stupid mistakes. Then the 9th one and the last one is never self-deprecate under any circumstance. This is a kiss of death that you initiate and the antithesis of prize mentality. Yeah. Don't ever self-deprecate. The last thing, like, hey, like if you don't give a shit about yourself, why should anybody else? That's it. Don't self-deprecate. It's not saying don't brag. It's just like, oh, I'm just an idiot. How did I get with this girl? I'm fucking lucky. Like, don't say that shit. You just told girls, hey, this one has no taste and she dates a loser like me. Like, wow, good job, man. Do you ever wonder why her friends cheer you on when you say that? Same reason that they tell her, oh yeah, get that pixie cut. You'll look great. It's like, no, fucking idiot. But a lot of guys do it because women who like competing love telling them about it. Fucking idiots. And the last group here, what's the header on this one? Mythology. Yeah, these are just lies. Lies that people tell to to shame men into doing what they want. The myth of the lonely old man. The idea of the guy becoming, like, they just take a woman's greatest fear, being a spinster, alone and lonely and no man in her life. And they're like, oh, guys are like that too. No, they're not. I know a bunch of lonely old men. They're not lonely. They're getting old. Hell, half of Nick's short story is about how great it is to be the lonely old man. It's like, everybody's like, you're going to be alone and lonely and die? Don't you want a family to hold your hands? It's like, dude, go to a nursing home. Go talk to the guys there. You'll see. It's just fake. I don't know what to tell you. The fact they're trying to shame you with some potential future doesn't exist. It's like a Christmas Carol, except for like it's the ghost of Christmas like dread. What the fuck? The other one is like women and sex, and this is where women's like, we're just as sexual as men. They're not. Hormonally, 17 times more testosterone. It's like, you'll never will be until they start developing sex dolls, like industries around getting guys to jerk off to random cartoons and shit. Like, there's nothing comparable like this to women at all. So don't ever fall for that. We're just as sexual. You're not. The next one is about good girls and bad girls, and that's where women try to Eloy and Morlock. Oh, there's good girls and bad girls. I'm a good girl. It's like, sure you are. Good girls are just bad girls that didn't get caught. Relax. Every girl is the whore for the right man. Just be the right man. And if she tells you she's not, I'm not like that. Okay. That's kind of like a subtle way of saying, like, girls are very reputation focused. Practical Female Psychology has this one too. It's the good girl archetype, and it means good girl as in like social status is her big thing. And so it's like, just be aware. I won't tell all my friends about how I banged you in a parking lot. I won't brag about it. I won't send your nudes on a thing. Those assurances that her reputation is intact, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. She'll do all kinds of things. But then, did you guys sleep together? No, man, she's not like that. We just talked. See what I mean? That's all you got to do. Help her with a lie. Help her keep a story. She's a good person. She wouldn't be like that. The myth of the biological clock. That's one where girls have it. Like, there's a fertility window that women have. Guys don't have one. And you'll see a lot of people like, oh, the quality of sperm this and the quality of, like, it's all cope. Guys do not have the same structure of women. And that's a whole blank slate equalism thing where men and women are exactly the same. Men hit the wall at 30, same as guys do or women do. And like, no, guys are on a totally different thing. And that's fine. So don't let people shame you into anytime they try to say you're the equivalent of a woman, you're not. You're just not. Looks count. That's the looks money game thing. You guys have heard it. Looks money game. Which one's better? I mean, everybody has kind of agreed at this point that game is better ultimately, but you can't be negligent in one or the other, like unless you're really good. You could be the hottest guy on earth and then be a broke guy. Sure. Who's not very good with women, who's kind of awkward. You can maybe pull through that if you're like a 10 out of 10 specimen male model. Sure. But if you're a guy who's just like 7 across the board, yeah, you look all right. Yeah, you got your own place. Well, you're pretty charming. You will do far better than the guy who's a 10. The richest guy on earth with no game and no looks. The most RSD Owen, fat dude, no money, tons of game. The male model who can't talk his way out of a paper bag. Like, you'll do better just get past the threshold on all of them. They all work with each other. And then SMV, sexual market value in girl world. And he talks more about the chart, so it's like, whatever. But it's funny. It's mostly about like, women are stupid. He shows like, what's the feminized version of the sexual market chart is. You know the one? Girls go, they peak, and then they go, and guys, it's slower and go over there. The feminized one is like, women peak at 18, and they stay peak until they're 50. We're always better than guys. It's like, all right, go ahead, believe that. Just don't buy into it. And then the last part, this is my least favorite part of it, because it's mostly like the anti-feminist side of things. It's like, just whamming. Am I right, fellas? You know? Feminine reality, sexual strategies. And this is Rolo just saying, like, the feminine and primary social order. All these social things we talk about. All this stuff that, yeah, I get it. It's an emergent strategy. It's not some evil cabal of feminists sitting underneath a war room somewhere. But they all lead towards the same direction. So just be aware of the landscape. Everything's designed right now to be female-centric. And there's multiple reasons. Women are the primary consumers of commerce. So yeah, every company is going to pander to women because women spend all the money. That's a fact. 80% of all spending decisions are made by women, even though they only make 77 cents on the dollar. There's that. There's the voting blocks. Women tend to vote and be very easy. They're more easily emotionally susceptible to voting. You see all the charts where like women like everybody voted Trump in the economic terms except for like young single women. They all voted for Harris. And the idea there is they showed how easy they are to manipulate compared to guys. So all of these people are pandering to this one demographic, and that's why it looks like, why is everything so feminized? It's not. It's just everybody is manipulating the fuck out of them. That's what you're seeing. But I mean, ultimately it has the same thing. You just can't buy into it. They're not marketing to you. Next one is femcentrism. And this is kind of like a mini history lesson where they talk about the pill, the 60s, the sexual revolution. Not much to go over there. You guys are better off reading this stuff yourself. The feminine mystique, the idea they make women unknowable, mystic, overly complex creatures. So, well, it's too complicated, so let's not even bother understanding. He's like, bullshit. Bullshit. They're people. Individually, people are highly variable, but as groups, you can tell. And then war brides. She'll get over you way faster than you believe. Same as like the Vichy French. They just bombed France to a trash heap. And then the women were like on those Nazi dicks so quickly. That's the point. She will get over it. Don't worry about it. Oh, she's broken. I'll break her forever. I'll be the alpha widow. It's like, relax. She will get over you faster than you can believe. They're just built that way. The tools of anti-slut defense. And anti-slut defense is just where a girl wants to sleep with you, but then they have that reputation management thing in their head. We're like, oh, dude, somebody's going to think I'm a slut, and they kind of have a visceral reaction to it, and they shut down a lot of sexual things. So your goal, generally speaking, is to assure her during the process that she's not a bad person, she's not a slut, you won't think less of her for it, and just move on. Well, what if you are going to think less of her? Don't tell her that. She wants to believe she's not a slut. She wants to do slutty things, and she doesn't want to be shamed for it. She wants to sleep with you. You want to sleep with her. And all she asks for is to help me keep this facade up. And you're like, no, I gotta be honest. It's like, you fucking idiot. So yeah. Sexy. Sexy isn't always slutty, but slutty's always sexy. And they just bring it up how like how women don't have game. Just show up naked, bring beer. That's what girls do now. They just stand there. And he goes, yeah, girls used to have charm. And like when they cut their hair short, it's stupid. That's girls talking them out of it too. And it's just his way of lamenting that women don't have game anymore. But they've never really had to, because guys are the thirstiest they've ever been. So we kind of created our own Dr. Frankensteinette. The threat. Nothing's more attractive to women than a man who knows his own worth. And that's it. Like if you ever notice, like the most appealing thing in like TV and social media are guys who are like the most amazing catches, but they act oblivious to it. Like, what? I didn't realize I was hot. I just, that's a lot of money. I didn't know. Yeah, they love that stuff because it's a very easy guy to manipulate, a guy who doesn't know his worth. But a guy who knows, like, dude, I'm fucking a 10. I'm a 7. Like, you will not find better than me. And like, honestly, assessing is that. It's attractive as shit. They're like, he's right. I just fucking can't stand it when he says it. Or even there's that he knows it. Just not even saying it. Just acting like you know it. And that's, again, it's one of those things. You're going to get shit on. If you know your worth and you act as if you're that worth, you're going to get shit on. It's okay. You're allowed to be a villain. Don't get mad. Just get laid. Get laid, have a family, do whatever you want. I know my worth. That's great. Just don't expect to be praised for it. Could a man have written this? And this is where, like, anytime a girl writes some red pill truth, and you still see it, any girl who's like, did you know that 80% of divorces are initiated by, like, all the standard MRA, oh, this, and this, and this, and this. If a girl says it, it's wonderful and brave, and, oh, I can't believe it. If a guy says it, he's a fucking asshole. And that's where he points it out. Could a man have even said that? And that's why like every men's rights activist of any note is always a woman. That's why Karen Strawn is the face of the MRA. That's why the Honey Badgers are the biggest brand in the MRA. That's why any men's rights advocate is always a woman. It's because a man can't say it. Oh, if a man says it, he's evil. But if a woman says it, she's just empowered and building awareness. And it's just kind of like, again, it ties into that you're going to be a villain if you start talking about this stuff. So just be aware. Live with it. Is it so hard to believe that the guys who suck in the sexual marketplace and made the men's rights organizations to try and equalize the threshold by trying to act like the feminist playbook for men? Is it any surprise that they will suckle up to any girl who tells them what they want to see? Yeah, but they're not wrong. That's true. They're not. But if a guy had said it, you wouldn't have cared. But now that a girl said it, oh, fuck, you're going to suckle up to that tit. It's always the funny thing, too. Like, there's no villains in this either. Everybody's doing things that are right, but we're talking about the dynamics at play. I like Karen. Great person. Good work. All that stuff. But at the same time, there's also a reason why Paul Elam's a piece of shit. Just saying. So that's kind of year one. But you see what I mean? Like, there's all these concepts, and that's just year one rational male. He's got a whole second year. There's like 5 years, but year 1 and 2 are really the ones that are worth reading. We don't have time for year 2 this time, but it's just for you to know. I never did a series on it because it's right there and Rolo talks about it constantly, but now he's talking about the flagpole. There you go. I'll add this episode to the sidebar and probably the next one where I do year 2, and then we're up to the last 2 episodes. I got some good plans. Is the 4th red morning binding there the dog walker? What? Or do you mean the books here, like this one or this one? Because if it's this one, we had like an online conference because of COVID over Rule 0. We had to shut down the thing because COVID, they wouldn't let you do it. And I didn't like that idea. So I made an extra chapter and some special additions to Fuccfiles, and I sent it out to everybody as like a, hey, thanks. Sorry we couldn't do it in person. Fucking COVID. There you go. And underneath it, I just needed a book to give it a little bit of height so they all stayed in frame. Book update. Of course they'll do one again. Dude, Praxiology. Oh yeah, one sec, we got to do this proper.
Do I come? kung fu? Do you like hardcore action, big explosions, and 7-foot-tall aliens? How about a gritty crime drama or a buddy cop movie? Do you want witty one-liners, laser guns, a double cross, gratuitous nudity for no reason other than it's awesome? 80s karate fights, fast car chases, and 90 minutes of a great time? Well, I have 4 words for you. I come in peace.
Fucking love that movie. I'm surprised. That video just crushed it, by the way. It's up to like 30,000 views. It found an audience and it just fucking jumped. Loving it. Book 4 is coming out on the 13th. That's Praxiology Volume 3, a collection of field reports, a reader's digest for men. Toilet reading. It's nice. It's fun. It's not meant to be gone cover to cover. You're supposed to pick it up, read a chapter, put it down, go about your day, do it again. It's nice. It's casual. It's great. Dog Walker is coming out in about 3 months, I think. The cover art's in. It looks fucking amazing. The editing's almost finished. That part looks amazing. It's the first fiction from the author of Dread and Frame. Comes the first book of fiction that you'll fucking enjoy. It's Jane Austen for men. It's Steinbeck, but not a fucking communist. It's Bukowski without an alcohol problem. You'll fucking love it. That's coming out, so just follow. And look, I wouldn't have to give these much updates if you would just join the mailing list. There's a mailing list? Of course there's a mailing list. It's on Substack. ryanstone.substack.com. I will put it in the chat. Subscribe. There's a paid subscription thing for guys who like to support the channel. I also like giving you guys additional stuff, sneak peeks that other guys don't get, but you know, that's disposable income. It's up to you. I'm always looking for new ways to show some love to the people that have paid to keep the thing where it is today. So I love you guys. You're the ones that make this all possible. For the rest of you though, that's the one. I'll pin this on the thing. Get on the goddamn Substack. It's worth. It's fucking worth. Get all the updates. You can follow. You'll see excerpts. Like, if you've been following the email lists back from... I started it back in Fuccfiles. It's pretty big now. It's like 5,500 people. It's getting bigger. You were never surprised when things are coming out. When Fuccfiles came out, you knew what was coming. When Praxiologies 1 and 2 came out, you knew exactly what was in them. So there's like no surprises. I don't like the idea of bait and switches. And so that's my part of it. Plus the idea that, like Bill Burr, I used to love watching him in Montreal. He would do his hour special, and it was fun. You'd watch it, and it was great, and it was fun. And you'd do the jokes. And then 6 months later, we'd watch it on Netflix. Like, oh, he's on Netflix now. And that was pretty cool too. But it was like a whole different level of enjoyment, because it was like, I knew all the jokes he was doing, but he changed some things. Like, oh, why would he change that? Oh, that's actually funnier. I like why he did that. Oh, that's weird. He took that one out. Oh, he added something new. And I got to appreciate it on a whole new level. I got to see the process. And so that's the big ad I find for people who join on that. Plus, if I ever get canceled, like I say cunt and fucking whamming a lot on here. And so there's a good chance that YouTube is going to be done with my shit and I'll get Stefan Molyneux and wiped off the internet. At the very least, it's an email list. Like, they can't block you from email. So if push comes to shove and I get canceled, like real canceled, none of that stupid conservative grifter canceled, then yeah, it's the last place to find me. So I would suggest doing that. Is there going to be a volume 4? There is going to be a volume 4. That's the other update. But that's, again, the timeline now is on the 13th, Prax volume 3. And then in a couple months in the spring, it's going to be the Dog Walker. And then a couple months after that is Praxiology volume 4. At very least, there's going to be print and paperback, or paperback and Kindle. Audiobooks, I have not started on any of them yet, so that's on the list, the to-do list. And I'm also, at that point then, I'm going to start getting the hardcovers of all of this stuff. So I'm going to have like a cognizant or a consistent graphic design look. So all the books, they'll sit beside themselves on the shelves, look like a box set. And that's when you'll see that. So that's for you. Anyways, that's it. They got Rule 0 coming up in like 6 minutes. It's going to lead you directly to there. Have fun. I'll talk to you guys later. Where's the stupid, there she is.
'79T 2458 Learning Corp. Little Red Riding Hood. Take 1.